welcome to another just incredible, amazing, spectacular, I'll even say, show. This is the Game Informer Show. It's a show, a podcast about video games and the information about them. That's probably the best way to describe it. I'm your host, Ben Cold Brew Reeves. It's a new nickname I'm just working on. I think it needs a lot more work.
Okay.
But join with me today, Dan Tack.
Hey, I don't have a cool nickname like Cold Brew, but I'm here, and it's great to be here, Ben. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Alex, the Dragon Stadnik.
Roar! I don't know why
You just had that. You just had a dragon scene right there.
Yeah, that was way too perfect.
How is that possible?
Life
It's amazing.
Life comes at you quick. Hello, Benjamin Cold Brew Reeves. How are you?
Now I'm struggling to figure out what I can grab in short notice.
Then Brian, Dirty Diaper Shay.
Hey,
you got one of those names, right? There it is.
Or Bowser Jr. He probably has some.
All right.
Diapers, right?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Oh boy.
Hey, welcome to the show, guys. Thanks for being on. We have another incredible show this week. It's like we can't stop. We can't stop putting them out.
Not
There's
possible.
Great show after great show after great show.
They won't let us stop.
They won't. Yeah, they say as soon as you stop, you're done. And I don't know what that means.
I don't want to be done.
Keep going because I don't want to be done. Brian Fargo. We have an interview with Brian Fargo coming up. If you're not familiar, he's the founder of inXile and Interplay back in the day. He's been around the industry for 40 plus years at this point. Started when he was a kid. Made some incredible games. Wasteland. He had a hand in the Fallout series, Bard's Tale, among many others. So we go over a portion of his career and then kind of segue into Wasteland 3 talk because Wasteland 3 is a couple weeks away. So that's a really exciting interview. I'm glad to have him on the show. But before we dive into that, we have a Game Informer playlist to go over. This is the part of the show where we talk about the games we're playing. And Dan Tack, I want to start with you. What have you been playing?
The playlist. I love this segment. If there's nothing more I like than talking about games that I'm playing. So
that's right. You've always understood and been behind this segment 100%.
Well, I get what it is now. It's what I'm playing right now. What's on the plate? We got a big buffet, but what are you eating? Right? That's what we really get to here. That's what we call it, a playlist. Anyway, first game out, Rogue Legacy 2, just came out in early access. If you're familiar,
sounds like a meat and potatoes type game.
It really, this game, the first game I thought was fantastic because I think it crossed the bridge for a lot of people. It crossed the gap where people were scared of roguelikes for a long time because they had a reputation for being really, really hard and frustrating. And I think Rogue Legacy, the original, really brought us from the era of the roguelike over to the era of the roguelite, where you have many significant permanent progression aspects from run to run.
Do you roguelike this one?
So far, what's there in early access is actually kind of slim on the content side. Lots of the features and functionality are there, but there's only one biome to explore currently. Well, there's more than one. Okay, but there's 1.5. Out of the, I think there's supposed to be 6-ish. There's a lot of content that's still not there, but everything that is there feels pretty clean and pretty good. I got lots of upgrades. I've leveled up 20 times. I can't put it down just like the first one. You go through a run, you're like, okay, I want to try it again and see what happens this time. And then every time you leave, you get new items, you get new upgrades. It's a lot of fun. Even if you don't.
How long is your average run, would you say?
It varies, and it tells you at the end of each run. You get a time and all the enemies you beat and all the rooms you explored on this cool little spreadsheet kind of, that they give you visually. It's not like a real spreadsheet, right? It's cool visually. I don't know, 10 minutes sometimes. Sometimes you die right away. So maybe you'll get a character with the pacifist trait, which means you can't attack or do anything. You get 200% base gold for that, but you're not going to live long because you can't fight.
Wait, so you're just running?
On that run, yes.
Every time? All right.
On that run, again, it depends.
That sounds cool.
So if you're not familiar with Rogue Legacy, you play as a lineage, and each character is going to have different character traits from their genetic makeup, right? And when you take a harder character, a character that may have flatulence issues, perhaps, or color blindness, so the screen actually, you can't see the colors on the screen. Or maybe
I didn't know you were a character in this game, Brian.
The
or
dirty
maybe,
diaper class, yeah.
Or maybe they have severe myopia and you can't see anything around your character. There's all kinds of weird debuffs you can get. And in this game, when you take the weird debuffs, you get a gold bonus. So when you do that pacifist run, you know that character is going to die, but you're going to just try to get as many chests to capitalize on that 200% gold gain while you're alive. And then you take that gold back, and you can use the next person in the lineage, in the legacy, you could say, to spend that coin to get new upgrades that will affect the entire family, or and by there you go. That's how it is. It's a constantly upgrading family. You get lots of unlocks, you unlock classes, you unlock lots of permanent progression, right? So it's not just ever more like a Dungeons of Dreadmore or Binding of Isaac sort of style thing where it's just like, I've got, all right, new life, new game, everything fresh. Let's see what happens. You're getting stronger every time.
Does
that's
it have
helpful.
like significant upgrades over the first Rogue Legacy?
Again, there's not the content from a content standpoint. It's very difficult to say that right now. What is there is pretty clean, pretty smooth. I like it a lot. There's some really nice challenges in there already, and lots of secrets to discover. So that's a lot of the fun right there. As far as comparing it to the original, it does have a different kind of art style kind of going on, but it still feels like it's in the spirit of the original. But again, to make bold statements on it now, when we're still, I'm guessing we're still very early into early access. That's one of the demons of early access, right? It's great to be able to play the game early, but there's a lot there that isn't there yet, and I always tear myself up. Like, should I jump on board this early access game right now, or should I wait and start playing it day one? It's tough. It's real tough. I can't, when I know Rogue Legacy 2 is there, I want to play it right now, even though I know.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but the first Rogue Legacy was kind of on that early cusp of the rogue-like genre, rogue light genre rebounding. Is that right?
To my sense is that it popularized the rogue light genre over the rogue like.
Yeah.
Right.
And just hearing you describe it now, it sounds like dozens of games that have come out since then. It sounds very familiar at this point. Do you feel like there's anything here that is valuable this day and age?
Absolutely. I mean, again, I'm not speaking about the full game because it's not available, but the early access feels punchy, feels fun. As soon as I'm done with the run, I want to jump in and get another run. I want to get new unlocks, I want to get new upgrades, and I want to explore the castle. And
that's what I like to hear.
All right. So I like it a lot already.
Resounding. And that's in early access right now.
It is.
Just on Steam.
You got me looking for the Steam page right now, and I accidentally closed multiple programs on my computer while doing that. So that was what my mini freak out was.
Well, what else do you need to be doing right now other than playing Rogue Legacy?
Exactly. I need to play it right now.
You should be playing it right now. And by the way, it's on Steam and EGS currently. So
sounds great. You've been playing anything else, Dan?
Sure. The playlist is long. The playlist is powerful. Let's grab another one out of the vault. Another game I've been playing a lot of recently is Mortal Shell. This is a Souls-like, and you're going to be like, "Oh, Dan, you call everything a Souls game?" No, this is unabashedly attempting to grok some of the Souls love, for better or worse. It's very aesthetically pleasing. I love the art style. The good things I have to say about it pretty much stop there. It's a very short experience, so I guess if you're looking for a short game, it's more of a Sekiro than a Souls, I guess, in that way. You do develop, but there are 4 classes and 4 weapons. So those are your combinations. You don't get level ups. You get you can get some unsorted power unlocks for characters, but it's a game where you can go in certain directions from the beginning and sort of take on anything whenever you want, like when you feel ready. It's sort of you're not pumping points in vitality or jacking up your strength to use new gear or anything like that.
Well, what's not great about it?
Those aren't necessarily negatives, but there are lots of the levels, again, like I said, I like the look of it. It looks very, very good. It's got a very good look to it, but the level designs really put me off. They are just a giant corridor full of dudes. And honestly, it's you see me run around in Dark Souls sometimes to skip the stuff to go to the boss. In this game, because of how development works, there's very little incentive to ever fight anything. You should pretty much just blaze through those levels running. And as you run through, you can notice you're going to see a lot of the same enemies. It's just okay, let's make an ice corridor. Let's fill it with 10 of these guys, 10 of these guys, and 10 of these guys. Level done. And it's just And the mechanic does include a new mechanic, which I think a lot of people are excited about, which is called Harden. So it takes blocking out of the game, no shield blocking or anything like that. Instead, you time something called a Harden in order to completely negate your opponent's attack. But basically, what it does facilitate...
That's just Metapod.
Yeah, it is similar to that Pokemon move. That's big. Yes. So it will
Dan's very
negate all the
entertained.
damage coming in and generally throw the enemy off balance. So you're really just trying to time everything around your hardened cooldown. You can play other ways too. You can get the parry timing down and all that stuff, but again, it's just like the levels, while they look beautiful, I don't feel have any merit after that. It's just like sometimes they're just big pods of enemies with little
Metamon.
rhyme or reason around any of it. Boss fights are
there's
not
a
very
lot of-
enthralling either, which
No.
is that's a hallmark of the Souls games, you know. So that's a good thing.
Well, there's
to get
a
right.
lot of these Dark Souls light games, if you will.
Sure.
That it sounds like this is not one that you should put a lot of time into.
The thing is, it's a short game. I'm not finished with it yet. I just started playing yesterday, and I'm already 2/3 of the way through. It's a very quick play, and again, if you're looking for something a little bit like, you know, a lot of people really get into the meat and bones of Souls games, right? This one would be like a light snack, and it is priced a little less harsh as well. So here's the thing, I think so many people are just so freaking desperate for new Souls games that they will play anything that comes down the pipe that even barely resembles it. Like we had that Hellpoint game also earlier this year, just a few weeks ago, also channeling that Souls spirit, and that was also not a game I'd recommend. The final boss didn't even try to fight me back. It's a whole story there. That's a whole story. Anyway,
When did Neo 2 come out?
Neo 2 was early this year. Like that was the before time. We were in a different world
before the
Neo 2
Fire
came
Nation
out.
attacked.
So if you're really in the mood for one of these games, do you recommend just going back to that?
See, I don't. Yeah, I can't recommend either of these games. The games that I just mentioned, I don't recommend them. But I do understand the hunger. I do understand the thirst. It's very real. Everyone wants news on Elden Ring. We've all played through the Souls games like 20 times. We all want that new Souls experience. Neo 2 is in the past. We get Neo 2 PC. That would satisfy me for a little bit.
Game changer is what you're saying.
Game changer? I don't know about game changer, but it would satisfy that Souls itch. Because once you get a Souls itch, it doesn't go away. It never goes away.
Is there medication for that?
Yeah, the medication is Mortal Shell, but it's, you know, it's a fleeting.
But it's ineffective. You're saying
it's a couple of quick pills and maybe a placebo for what we're really craving.
No prescription needed.
Yeah, that's a bummer. It's too bad it's not a better game. But
I mean, yeah, but
thanks
like
for
I said,
informing us about that.
If you're hungry, and I know you are, check it out. I'm not saying grab it, but go look at it and see if it's your thing, and read up on it a bit. And if that's your thing, then snack on it a little bit, take a nibble.
There's so many other tasty things to eat right now.
There are.
Did you get a chance to play Microsoft Flight Simulator, Dan?
That is on my schedule of things to do this week, among so many others. I have not taken my first flight yet, though. I want to.
I know that's the big game that released this year, and it, like, IGN gave it a 10, which is crazy.
Isn't that nuts?
That's insane.
Yeah, it's. I know we have Jeff Quirk's checking it out. Sounds like he's crashed a plane several times. So
yeah,
if you ever get on a plane, you see Jeff Quirk in the pilot seat.
Run.
The last time I played the Fight Simulator game was literally the first one.
The first one ever. What year was that?
Wasn't that like 85?
I think it came out in 82, but I would have been playing it when I was like 5 or 6, so it would have been like 85, or I would have been. I'm not gonna tell you how old I would have been, but I would have been young. All right.
That was back before they'd even figured out planes, before they'd even invented planes at that point.
It was like a
sci-fi game.
1885.
You know, to watch things come full circle. Because I remember when that thing came out, it was literally like, God, there were like 2 colors, and like it was just these. It was the worst thing. If I showed you a picture of it now, you'd probably vomit. But we thought it was the coolest thing ever. We're like, oh my God, look, we're flying a plane.
Yeah.
And now we've come to this apparently amazing, both graphically and like just the sheer scope of the world, right? I am looking forward to checking that out.
Cool. Well, hopefully in the coming weeks we'll have more informed opinions, and we'll get Jeff Corkin on here to talk about it. But just be aware, apparently it's a good game and it's out now, so check it out. I'm going to check that out too when I get a chance. But I'm filming from my underground bunker, a special new location. So if I sound different or look different, that's why. Just a heads up.
It's a cool
bunker.
bunker.
Earlier this week, yeah, it is a very cool bunker. I'll just tell you that. Earlier this week, there was a Nintendo showcase event, an indies, if you will, showcase event. I know Brian and Alex, you both checked out a few games from that show. Any highlights that are worth playing?
So the games, like I when I was writing earlier, was a list of games that like really caught my eye during that presentation, and like the list of games that I do want to check out. And it was like a lot of them were like favorites from like other platforms, primarily PC. Like Hades is coming to the platform
I
alongside
can't wait
with the
for I
one.
can't wait for Hades to actually come out, so I can
Yeah,
put that on
the
my
1.0
playlist.
launch sounds like that's coming up pretty soon here. But Hypnospace Outlaw is on Switch. A Short Hike is on Switch. But the two that really caught my eye were Evergate and Raji and Ancient Epic. So I haven't had a chance to play Raji and Ancient Epic, but I just spent about an hour just checking out like the opening of Evergate, and it's pretty cool so far. It almost like the art style kind of reminds me of an Ori in the Blind Forest or Ori in the Will of the Wisps. But the gameplay unfolds a little bit differently. So basically, it's more puzzle focused. So like there will be a surface, and you have like this like energy that you can shoot at the surface, but it's only specific surfaces you can shoot at. And when you hit that surface with this energy, it like kind of ignites that line of targeting, and it pushes you back, so it gives you like a boost. So you have to find a way to like navigate through this platforming section using that, like making sure you're hitting the right angles while also hitting these diamonds that you can destroy as you kind of ascend to like the exit of the level. So it's very puzzle based and like kind of like quick retry where like, oh, I hit the gems in the wrong order, so now I can't make that final platform. So you have to start that little sequence over. And it's like single screen so far anyway. There's single screen levels. But it's super fun so far. I'm enjoying it a lot.
What's
But
that called again?
Evergate.
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 Interesting.
Um, and I'm kind of in between. Like if we want to just roll right into my playlist, I'm kind of in between.
Well, I don't know. You guys cool with it?
So I'm in between big review games right now. So I just finished the UFC 4 review, which is up on GameInformer.com right now, and I'm anticipating starting my Madden 21 review in the coming days. So I've been playing some indie games. I played a game called The Tourist, which I believe was already on Switch. Now that we're talking about Switch indies, but I played it because it came to Xbox Game Pass. And basically, it's like a voxel art like. You just come onto like this island and you discover like there's a monument and you kind of crack a code to get inside the monument and like there's all this like weird alien technology and it tells you to like go to these other islands and like solve the puzzles of these monuments and like it's just like mini dungeons that you have to do and some of them are kind of frustrating like the platforming isn't super crisp and some of the physics stuff kind of annoyed me, but overall it's a really fun game and like when you're not going into the dungeons, like there's a ton of side quests. Like you go around and like help the residents of these islands with like different to-do list things and like it's everything from like, oh well, can you like beat my son's score on like flying his drone around the island and like it gives you like little targets to like land the drone on to like there's actually like three like made from the ground up arcade games that you can go in and try to beat the high scores on that or like there's a surfing competition like there's a ton of mini games that are just completely divergent from the main gameplay of going around this open island so I had a fun time with it overall it's a super short game. I beat it on Friday. I had no power Saturday and then I started it on Friday, had no power on Saturday, and then I beat it on Sunday afternoon, so it was like a pretty easy game to get through. And if you're looking for achievement points, boy oh boy did they just throw them at you relentlessly there.
Yeah. That's the
So
Tourist, you're saying, right?
the Tourist, yeah, it's spelled
Tourist.
with a
It's
Wait, hold
spelled
on.
Y.
weird?
It's spelled like it's tourist, but instead of an I, it's a Y.
Okay. I thought
Um,
you were just saying tourist weird.
Tourist.
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 I literally I have it in my notes. I have tourist question mark. So that's where I was at with that.
Tourist.
Yeah.
And then I've been trying to get through Ghost of Tsushima. That game is still like something that I'm like I should like just adore this game. But every time I sit down to play it, something happens, and I either like I said, I lost power on Friday, or I get like a phone call from a friend or something like that. So it's like I keep getting distracted from putting like significant time into this game. But I'm waiting for that one gameplay session to really like
Yeah.
I just lose 6 hours. Like, oh my god, where did all that time go? Oh, I was playing Ghost of Tsushima and I did
Sure.
like 7 missions. I've been waiting for that to happen and it just hasn't happened yet. But I have a feeling that it will soon.
So hold on, I want to back up too, because you said you got a phone call from a friend? That's a
Yeah,
lie, right?
yeah. I was just trying to make an
Sorry, I
excuse.
don't know why I'm picking on you so much, Brian. You're a cool guy. You're a cool
Well, I mean,
guy.
you're picking up right where Ben Hansen left off.
Yeah, exactly. No, I wanted to back up because I wanted to talk about UFC,
Mhm.
which you played last week. And is it worth playing? Is it good?
Yeah. So they have been doing a biannual schedule. Like EA Sports is notorious for putting out a new game every single year, but they do it with Madden, NHL, and they've tried to do it with NBA, but have failed a lot recently with that. But UFC they've done every 2 years, which I think has really benefited them. And UFC 3 was like a ton of leaps and bounds forward from what 2 gave us, but 4 isn't so much leaps and bounds as much as it's just kind of like evolving what was already there. Like 3 gave us like an all new career mode where like, you can make some choices and affect like the way you go about accomplishing your goals. But the goal was to like become the greatest of all time. And like you do that through like accomplishing like you set the record for most wins, you set the record for most knockouts, you have X number of social media followers. So like it was like promotional and performance goals that you had to accomplish by the end of your career in order to be considered the greatest of all time. That's still the goal in UFC 4's career, but they give you so many more ways to go about it. Like there's a new like kind of social media like storylines that you can develop, like where like before a fight or after a fight, like another athlete in the UFC will tweet at you or send you a message on social media, and you can respond like in a friendly manner or you can like respond in a taunting manner. And depending on how you develop these relationships, you can develop like friendships where like, all right, well that guy has this really awesome kick. I can invite him to my training camp and he can teach me how to do that kick for this fight. And you can like improve your arsenal of moves on the cheap because you can hire anybody to come to your camp, but the friendlier you are with them, the cheaper they'll accept to come train with you. And if you respond in a taunting manner, you can develop rivalries, which not only like give you like special storylines with this other fighter, but it can also attract more attention and like get more fans to watch the fight. So it's kind of like a give and take. Like, do you want it to be easier to train with this guy and learn his moves, or do you want to like build the hype around this fight and like be kind of a jerk to each other on social media? So that's kind of cool. And then like they retooled all the striking, all the grappling, all the clinching. There's a new submission mini game. So if you played UFC 3, it was kind of a complex like abstract gate system where you have to like go stage by stage for the submission, but now they have 2 separate ones that are a lot more intuitive to understand. Like, it's a lot more casual friendly, I would say. There's also like a simple grappling version or a simple grappling mode where if you go to the ground, instead of having to like be like, all right, I want to advance to this position, and I want to advance to this position. You can still use the legacy controls, but the default is grapple assist mode where you just tell the game what you want to do, and it like calculates how like the best way to do that. So if you're like, all right, I want to submit this guy, it'll find the closest submission that your character has and it'll go to that submission automatically if you're able to, because like it takes into account like your fighter's skill level, your current level of fatigue, your enemies or your opponent's skill level, your opponent's fatigue. So it takes into account all those things with any success that happens. But yeah, they've retooled so much about it. And then there's a really cool online mode called Blitz Battles, where it throws you into like a rapid fire 64 player tournament, and it's like these kind of like quick get in get out modes, like 1 minute to win. So like you just have 1 minute, you fight, and then if you win you move on in the tournament, if you lose you're out and you just jump right back into another tournament. It's almost like a battle royale in that regard, where it's like, all right, you lost, instead of having to sit around and wait for the match to end, you can just jump right into another one, like a new lobby, and start a new one, like a new tournament like that, in hopes of getting a better result. So overall
Sure.
I really like it, but it's not like a complete reinvention like 2 to 3 was. It's more of just like taking everything that 3 did well, improving it, and also they did some reinvention in terms of like the gameplay and some of the mechanics.
Yeah, honestly, I was about to fall asleep there, but then you mentioned the casually friendly part, the how casually friendly it is, and I kind of
Mhm.
perked up. I was like, maybe I'd be in the mood for something like that because I'm a casual guy.
Well, if
I'm
you're
wearing
looking for like
flip
a
flops right
casual
now.
mode, they do have they've in the past couple of games they've had knockout mode and stand and bang. And stand and bang is just like there's no grappling, there's no like anything. It's just literally punches and kicks. And knockout
And it's
mode, what
called Stand and Bang?
stand and bang. Stand and
That
bang, baby.
I don't know,
So
They
man.
got to work on that
What's
one.
going on?
but knockout mode is cool because last time it operated on like a kind of like health segments. So like, all right, you got punched in the face, that takes away 1 health, like you had like 5 HP basically. but now they've replaced that with UI that looks like Street Fighter health bars. So it's literally just like a fighting game, essentially, like with UFC fighters, which is really cool because like there's also like a Kumite stage where it's like an underground like fighting arena. So they've taken a lot of liberties in terms of like the creative fighter, and like there's an arena where you're just in a backyard with like chain link fences. There's an arena that, like I said, there's the Kumite arena.
That's cool.
And you can really go crazy with like the creative fighter. Like you can put like a snake head on your guy if you want.
Really? Oh, that's
yeah.
cool.
And like he fights with it. It's not just like a mask that he wears out to like the arena. Like it's actually like, all right, this guy's head looks like a bear. So I mean, you have to unlock a lot of this stuff like that. They got rid of Ultimate Team, which is like the big microtransaction mode in all the EA Sports games. But this time around, like the way microtransactions work in this game is it's unlocking the cosmetics, but you can also get those through leveling up your profile. So
Yeah,
they definitely
little known
like.
fact: the
Yeah.
original Street Fighter was originally called Stand and Bang.
Oh, okay. Well,
A lot of people
That
did
is
not
don't.
know
very,
that.
That's UFC
very,
4.
very
I
little
feel like
known.
we've already talked about it way too much, but what'd you give? What's the score on that one, Brian?
an 8.5 out of 10.
8.5. So there you go.
Solid.
That's all you need to know.
Right there.
Alex, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I won't belabor it, but I am really as Shay talked about earlier, just getting my notes down here. The Nindy Showcase had a lot of stuff that actually was out the day of, which was exciting. I feel like we haven't had something like that in a little bit. And not only was it a plethora of things, there's actually some good stuff in there. And I'm really liking Raji and Ancient Epic. And I actually found that game when Xbox was doing their indie demo showcases before the bigger showcase where they showed Halo and Xbox Series X and whatnot. So initially played it on Xbox. We streamed it for new gameplay today live, and I really liked it. I was impressed at that point on how solid it felt, and it's here now, so it wasn't that quick of it was a pretty quick turnaround. I am very happily surprised at how solid this game is. I am about 2 hours in, and there's a lot of polish not only to the world but to the gameplay that I'm really enjoying. It really tasks you with using the environment and the walls around you in the combat, so it's not just generic hack and slash. There is some thought that goes into it. In the demo I played originally, you just had your staff that the gods gifted you, and that was fun, and with the environmental stuff with that, but I just unlocked the bow, and there's skill trees involved, so it's like it's more fleshed out than even I thought it was after the demo, and with a beautiful world and a subject matter that I'm not familiar with. I'm not versed in Indian culture as much as I probably should be, but this is from Nodding Heads Games. Yeah. Which is an Indian developer. They're pulling from folklore and I think Hindu religion, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Hindu and Balinese.
Yeah. And it makes for not only interesting character designs but really cool storytelling, and is it going to change that genre? I don't think so, but I'm having a really good time with it, and it is perfect on Switch. So if you're interested, I think it's 10% off right now. And it's exclusive to Switch currently.
For now, yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting because like I said, I played it on Xbox. I thought Microsoft would definitely try to get that as a Game Pass exclusive or something like that, but this is perfectly at home on the Switch, and I'm excited to play more.
Yeah, and it is coming to PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC in coming months. They said. I got a press release this morning, and because when I was watching that Indie streamer, I guess it's called Indie World, those were the two that really stuck out in my mind in terms of like, oh, I didn't even know about this game. I'd love to learn more. Were Raji and Ancient Epic and Evergate, and I'm really excited to dig into that. That might be my evening plans, actually, is digging into Evergate and into Raji for the first time.
Yes,
That's cool. Yeah, it sounds really good.
Yeah.
Raji. How do you spell that one?
Raji, and then an Ancient Epic.
Cool. Yeah, that one definitely intrigued me. I want to check that one out. You guys mentioned earlier, A Short Hike, which came out earlier. It might have even been last year on PC, or at least earlier.
I think it was last July, maybe. But yeah, it's just kind of like this serene game where you're this bird climbing up a mountain, and there's no rush. There's no like, oh, you got to get to the top by this time or anything like that. You're just kind of making your way up a mountainside at your own pace, and you meet people, you find things in the wilderness, and kind of have a good time.
Yeah. So I was reminded of it because of that Nintendo Direct, which is getting a lot of mileage on the show. But I went back and finished that up, and that was a really good time. It's a nice short blast. It's only a couple hours long, but it's like a good pacing for progression because you pick up these feathers around the environment, and that allows you to fly or I guess climb more. And so you get up the side of the mountain, and if you want something that's really short but a good time and has a really unique visual style, I totally recommend it.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
Another game that really caught my eye in and then we can move on from the Indie World Showcase, but it's called Takeshi and Hiroshi, and it was an Apple Arcade exclusive for a while, and it just came to Switch yesterday, or I guess Tuesday,
Yeah.
and it's only like $10, so I just went ahead and bought it, and it seems really awesome. Like it basically it's like this claymation style of art, and you're an older brother basically making video games for your younger brother to play, and like you have to kind of like fine tune how the fights happen and like what the enemies that appear. So you have to like make sure you're not making it too tough for him, but you also don't want to make it too easy. So you're trying to find like that sweet spot, and it's different like game styles. Like I saw like a top down shooter, I saw like a side scrolling kind of RPG style, and it seems like there's this really cool like story that's coming alongside that, like about like this family and like kind of some stuff that they're going through. So I picked that up, and that's also on like my list of things I want to check out from that stream.
So that, just to clarify, that one is out already?
Yeah, it was an Apple Arcade game that launched last fall, I believe, and now it is out on Switch currently. It just hit
Cool.
Switch at the conclusion of that stream on Tuesday.
Cool. Well, yeah. So continue with my playlist. Yeah, I had mentioned Short Hike, which is totally worth playing. The other game I went back to this week was What Remains of Edith Finch, which my brother was visiting. He was in town. We were trying to look for some games to play together. We played a little bit of Overcooked, which is total crowd pleaser. And then on a whim started What Remains of Edith Finch because it's on Game Pass. And I was like, hey, this is a good game. And he and his girlfriend were both there, and they just fell in love with it. And like that's all they wanted to do all weekend. I mean, it's not a super long game anyway.
All
but
weekend.
they
It's like
powered-
2 hours, man.
It's a little bit longer than that. But yeah, it's not super long. I guess we did have some other time where we just stared at each other and tried to think of things to do other than talk. But yeah, anyway, What Remains of Edith Finch, totally worth playing. It's a game where it's only a single player game, but it's a game you can play with other people there and they have a good time because primarily a story game. And it's also on Game Pass, as I said. So if you're looking for something to do, it's really cool. Everybody in this family is cursed and they die horribly, and you're basically traveling through a mansion and reliving their deaths. But each character has their own little mini gameplay sequence, and they're all very, very different, which I love. So I don't want to spoil any more of it, but it gets very creative and fun. And then also this week, the other one thing I was going to talk about, again, not a game, but kind of like last week, Pretending I Am a Superman came out. It's a documentary about the Tony Hawk rise and fall, not really fall, but rise and dwindling in popularity of the Tony Hawk games. So it's a good documentary. I wouldn't say it's great, but it's like a really solid hit in nostalgia, and it has some interesting bits in there about the development of the game. They talk mostly to skateboarders about it, but they have a few interviews with developers as well. They talk about the idea of just like shopping the game around and how Tony was out there trying to like pitch games to people as like, hey, I'm kind of a known character in the skateboarding world and you should make a game. And they had talked to Rockstar for a while, and Tony Hawk talks about his thoughts on what the Rockstar game would have been. And the other bit that I thought was interesting is that warehouse level was originally much bigger. It was kind of a long skating level where you're kind of racing downhill and then you end at the warehouse. And they realized that actually it's just more fun to play in the warehouse. So we should just cut out the rest of this level and just make this the game.
Wow.
And then also the other interesting thing was talking to a few of the bands, and there were a few people that were like, yeah, it was kind of hard to get music for the game because then back in the day, people didn't really want their music being in games. I thought that was kind of interesting.
It's interesting. Yeah.
So anyway, that's Pretending I'm a Superman. It's a documentary. It's out now.
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime, I think. I don't even think you need to like pay for it if you have Amazon Prime already. But something else that kind of along those same lines. Sorry, I'm piggybacking off you a lot here, Reeves. But
I'm used to it.
the the Netflix documentary series High Score came out this week, and I haven't had a chance to look at that, but it's like kind of like that's on my my video playlist. But it's on Netflix, and it's basically an exploration of like the creation of these classic games. And I think that they mentioned like Street Fighter 2, Pac-Man, Mortal Kombat, Sonic the Hedgehog. So there's all kinds of like interesting games that they look at, like kind of the creation of these iconic games. So I'm looking forward to diving into that.
We did talk about that a little bit last week, and I would say that's good. And
I'll just leave then.
I would watch that. Yeah, shut up, Brian. I would say watch High Score first, and then if you're still in the mood, check out Pretending I'm Superman. But yeah, that concludes our GI playlist. Thanks for coming, and thanks for. Oh no, wait, we have more podcasts, don't we?
You almost got us.
Time for another segment that we like to call "Welcome to Batmania." Where
this
we get like one of those like one of those transitions that Batman used to do.
Because guess what? They are about to show off a new Batman game, guys, which I'm sure you guys are already aware. But this Saturday, August 22nd, the DC Fandom is kicking off. It's like a 4-day event. They're going to be showing off a lot of DC-related content. Some of the stuff they'll be showing off is the new Batman game from WB Games Montreal, as well as they'll be showing off Rocksteady's new Suicide Squad game. So 2 exciting like video game-related things to show off. So we wanted to talk a little bit about like what we want to see in a new Batman game.
Mm-hmm.
First, I guess we should probably address the King Shark in the room, let's say. Just the news this week about Rocksteady and the work environment there, which you've probably already seen. But back in 2018, just to recap a little bit, back in 2018, 10 of 16 female employees at Rocksteady signed a letter saying that the work environment at Rocksteady was a little rough. A lot of sexual innuendo and like
sexual harassment.
It was a rough sexual harassment. That's the word I'm totally looking for. Yeah. Anyway, so it's confusing, can of worms. The news is still coming out because Rocksteady released a statement just today, or yesterday, I should say, signed by some of the employees that still work there, the female employees, saying that things have improved. But before that, there were employees, ex-employees, saying that it hadn't improved and that they've heard that it's still pretty rough. So I kind of don't know what to believe at this point, but it is kind of unfortunate, and sounds like, at least for a while, the work environment there was a little rough. But that's what we know. So it's still ongoing. Some of the news is still coming out, but we just wanted to acknowledge that that's kind of a bummer, and more than a bummer for some people, for sure.
And we hope that the people who are affected by this, get the help and assistance they need, because that's never okay. Period. It's not.
Yeah, and yeah, obviously. Yeah, and hopefully this changes things if it's still ongoing, which it should not be. This kind of stuff should never be acceptable in any work environment. Or any environment, period, I'll say. I'm going to put my foot down on that one.
Period. Yeah.
Yeah. But trying to be a little bit more positive, we just thought it'd be fun to talk about the WB Montreal game, which different studio, so there's no allegations at WB Montreal, as far as we know. But we do know that they're working on a new Batman game. So Batman Arkham Knights is the title. There's been a few leaks out there already. So just
Gotham
to run
Knights,
down.
Right?
Oh, yes, correct.
Arkham Knight would be another game. Going back to
Arkham Knight is the game that already came out. Yeah. So Gotham Knights, which is
that's the rumor,
homage to a comic book series called Gotham Knights. But the rumors are that it's going to be based off the Court of Owls storyline from 2011. Which is a really cool comic run where Batman discovers a secret society of owl-like. Well, I mean, they're humans, but they dress up like owls. They're called Talons.
Talons. They're owl people.
Like they're assassins that basically have influenced the history of Gotham since like the beginning, right?
Very Illuminati, yes, and it is so freaking good.
And it ties into the League of Assassins as well, correct?
Yeah, and it's totally worth checking it out. I'm sure you can get the paperbacks pretty cheap these days, or just get it on Comixology or something. So it's worth reading if you're into that sort of stuff. If you're into reading, I say read it.
You're here.
Anyway, the rest of the rumors, just to recap these, they say there's going to be 4 main playable characters: Batman, Nightwing, Robin, who's the Damon Wayne version of Robin, which was Batman's son, if you want to get really nerdy into the lore of it. And then the 4th character would be Batwoman. So those are supposedly the characters that you can switch between. at any time, kind of like GTA 5 style, where they'll
So
all be in different parts of the city.
Batman, Robin, Nightwing, and Batwoman or Batgirl?
Batwoman.
Okay.
The rumor I was reading said Batwoman, but yeah, maybe it's Batgirl. I don't know. Again, these are just rumors, as far as we know.
Love it.
And then the rumor I've seen some people say that it could be this year, but the other rumors looked like a little bit more legit as coming in early 2021 for pretty much every system out there, including like PC and Stadia and stuff, and the new consoles as well as the current consoles. So that's a recap
really
of the
there.
rumors.
But you know,
what are you concerned?
Luckily, you said it was coming to Stadia. Otherwise, I don't know if I'd be able to play.
Yeah, that's right. I know you, Dan.
Over there on your
trying
tablet.
to play everywhere.
I think you break out in hives whenever you touch a console controller. Is that true?
No, actually, I do. Not to go off at a tangent here, but since you mentioned it, I think a lot of PC gamers do use console controllers for certain games, like all the Souls games, Monster Hunter, that kind of thing. Controller, all kind of platformers like Rogue Legacy, also controller. Depends on the game. I have an Xbox wired controller on hand at all times, ready to go. PC. So.
Like in the grocery store.
Xbox 360 controller.
Yeah,
get out of here,
the one.
You casual.
Wired
casual. Get what the real gamers have on their PCs, an Xbox One Day One edition.
Let the record show I've been called a casual for using this controller. This is a great controller to use for your PC gaming. Yeah. Anyway, back to Batman.
That's right. Batman Gotham Knights. I just thought it'd be fun to talk a little bit about what do we want from the next Batman game? What are we hoping we'll see? What about you guys? What do you guys want out of another Batman game? Are you guys fans of the Batman games?
Owl people.
I think we're all you're in luck. Yeah.
I want them to be real owls too.
That'd be great.
That would actually be awesome. I want one of them to be an actual owl, like mutant that they've created in a basement somewhere. It's a comic. You can get away with it. Just have the basement of owls where it's like, what were they doing down here? Their Illuminati experiment was to make owl people. Let's do it. See, that's what I want. That's what I want.
If Man-Bat created like his own army, just ripping on everything, I like that. Yeah. Man-Owl.
It would be a part of the Arkham continuity, kind of like Arkham Origins, which was their last Batman game. That studio. Wondering if it would kind of serve as like a prequel or a midquel to the other Arkham games, because there's a lot of really iconic interpretations of villains in those games, and it'd be kind of cool to see, like, even if Joker isn't the main villain in this one, it would be cool to see some reference to him, or instead of kind of starting anew with both Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad. Maybe those are the beginning of a new kind of DC gameaverse, like we've been hoping Marvel was doing with Spider-Man, but then it turns out that Avengers is nowhere near that Spider-Man. So
yeah,
I mean, there'll definitely be a Joker reference. People freak out. You got to put one in there. Just people will freak out over those Easter eggs more than they will about the game. At the end of the day, it's like, oh, Joker reference, just like a scrap of paper with his name on it. And people will freak.
Literally, the ending of Batman Begins. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the first thing I had wrote down for what I want out of the next Batman game: no more Joker. Not even joking.
Let's talk about this. Yeah. Yes, I'm with you. Let's talk about this.
He's too
honestly
popular.
I'm ready to give that guy. He's a popular character for a good reason. Like, I think he is an interesting character. He's a good foil for Batman. But man, it's kind of like with the X-Men films, how they always had to have Magneto. I'm like, all right, let's just give that character a rest for a while. Like, it's more interesting to explore other characters.
Yeah.
So I think that's why the Owls are really interesting, because it's a cool antagonist for Batman. And I think somebody who can carry a whole game. But yeah, I would love to let's give the popular characters that we've seen in multiple games a bit of a rest. We don't need to see them anymore. Unfortunately, one of the rumors I was reading said that there might be 3 Jokers in the new game. So I don't know if that's true.
So what, Jack Nicholson, Heath Ledger, and Joaquin Phoenix?
Yeah.
I mean,
there's a thing they're doing in the
rumor,
comics.
But I can't imagine a game without at least a reference. I mean, he's just too popular of an IP. He's just, the Joker brand is so freaking strong right now. It does you a disservice to not include it in some fashion.
Well, I mean, put him in the Suicide Squad game then. Leave him out of the Batman game.
I'm sure he will be there. I have no doubt that he'll be there.
I'm fine with the reference. And again, I think you're right, Dan. It does make sense to have him in there, but at the same time, it's like, this is what we want out of the game. And what I want is give Joker a rest.
I get mad
Yeah.
franchise fatigue from big dudes like Joker who are like in everything they can possibly shove him into. He's the Burger King cup. Hell, he's the Burger King burger these days, right?
He's in
I
Mortal
get it.
Kombat 11.
I know he's everywhere, but so you get these super popular icons and characters sort of have their own like self-fulfilling prophecies because the more popular they get, the more essential it is to include them because it just builds upon their notoriety and popularity. And that's how you get the world where you're sitting in your Joker chair while you're listening to your Joker radio. You know,
Sounds awful. I hate it.
Hey, I'm just saying, like that's why he's going to have a
Yeah.
presence. I'm not saying you shouldn't get the stage. The Owls get the stage, and there's lots of really cool stuff you can do with them. And I'm really curious to see how that plays out. But you know, he'll be there somewhere, laughing away.
And to all those points, I really hope that it's not, to Shay's point earlier, I hope it's not in the Arkham series because I think that gives you a lot of freedom to experiment in these worlds. And I think the best Batman stories are the one where Bruce is genuinely, because Batman is so prideful on always having the situation under control, no matter what. The best villains push him to the brink, and the Owls do that in a really cool way where there's some points in that comic where it's like Bruce like kind of almost looks in the camera, is like, I don't know I have no clue what to do in this situation.
Ooh, how am I going to get out of this one?
Yeah. Yeah. So, but the Owls can do that, and I would love it to be nothing to do with the last 3 Arkham games, and then because I think Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's run in the New 52 for Batman is some of the best Batman stuff. Like, and I would love for this to be kind of a start into that because we really in mainstream like zeitgeist, we haven't really gotten to those outside of the comics, and I think they do some really cool, scary, dark stuff with especially Joker in Endgame and Death of the Family that I would love to see them get to after this game. But like it would be really cool if like this was the start of like, and then they went to like 0 Year or you know that kind of stuff and show off some of these new storylines that are really cool in Batman's universe, and I would love to be a part of that.
What else do you guys want to see in the new game? Anything else like non-story related even?
I'm excited to. I know you kind of. This isn't like a wish list thing. Since it's part of the rumors, but I'm really excited for additional characters to control because I really like Nightwing. I think that Robin has some cool tricks. I'm not as familiar with the Damon Wayne version, but I think that it would be cool to like be able to play as these different characters with different abilities. And like you said, if it's like kind of like GTA 5 style where you can switch to them whenever you want, and like you know maybe they have their own like character specific missions. You know, if there's like one mission that you can do with whatever character you want, that opens up a ton of possibilities for like ways to approach certain things, and maybe gives you different like diverging storylines. So I'm all in for that. If that's legitimate rumor. I mean, we don't have
Yeah,
long
no,
to
I
wait
like that
because
idea too.
that's coming out. It's happening this Saturday. So.
Yeah. And that could affect gameplay in interesting ways because when I was thinking about Arkham Combat, I was like, oh, it's so good, and it set the bar for, you know, what's like, well, Spider-Man came after it, right? And for superhero combat. But I think having those diverse characters could differentiate the gameplay in interesting ways. Like, you know, if you focus on Batman and he's more of maybe like your tank archetype that is fighting more, or, you know, Damian, who is smaller, who would be quicker and more nimble, but has less health, and like maybe he's more focused on detective vision and that kind of stuff. Similar how like Naughty Dog did Joel's gameplay and Ellie's gameplay in Last of Us and Last of Us Part 2, and that it's the same gameplay, but it feels different because of their different skill sets. I think that could be really interesting and a fun iteration on that style because I really love that combat, and I didn't know if I want a change in that, you know what I mean? But I think that could be fresh and
I would
cool
like
and
to see it
exciting.
evolve a little bit because when like all these rumors started coming out more and more, I actually went back. The only Arkham game I never finished was Arkham Origins. So I was planning on when probably a month ago I started playing Arkham Origins, and I'm like, this feels good still, but it feels just a little archaic in terms of like how that system has evolved. So I'd like to see a little bit of evolution in that. I don't know what that would be because the kind of rhythmic like counter strike, counter strike, counter strike, and then every once in a while you have to break a shield or like somersault over a guy. It feels so good, and it's so like embedded in like what players expect from these. I mean, I almost said the Arkham games since these aren't even Arkham games, but they would it's what players expect from like the Batman and the DC style games. So it would be interesting to see like what they could do. Like, I mean, they've had a lot of time to try to iterate on what that system is. So that's what I want. I want some sort of evolution in the combat.
Yeah. You guys keep talking about evolution. I guess I would word it as kind of like a back to basics is what I would love, because that combat system, you've said it a bunch and I'll say it again because I agree with you, but that combat system is really fun. And in the first 2 games, I thought they did a good job of iterating on it and refining it. I thought by the time we got to Arkham Knight, the last game that Rocksteady made, it was a little bit extra complicated, especially in the in game where there were so many different types of characters and so many gadgets that you could use. And so each type of enemy had their own gadget counterpart that's like, well, I got to use this on this guy, and this guy. It just kind of got a lot to manage at any one time. And,
can see that, yeah.
obviously I was good at it because I'm a really good player and I beat the
Pro
game.
gamer. Yeah.
I'm a pro.
He's not a
But I
casual
think
like Dan Tack.
For other people, they
Whoa!
might have wanted a simplified combat system. And I'd just love to kind of a back to basics idea. And the fact that you have multiple characters, kind of like you're saying, might be a good way for them to iterate on that, where the different characters control in different ways and add some extra flavor to the combat without overcomplicating it.
And they had Nightwing missions in, I forget which Arkham game. Was it City?
Yes, and then they had
Or was it
Robin.
Night?
They had
Well, they had Catwoman in City.
Yeah.
I think Robin was in City as DLC.
Okay, I thought they had
think
Nightwing missions as well as DLC for one of them, but maybe I'm just.
I think you're right.
It's been
I can't
several
remember which one
years.
though. Yeah, I can't remember which game. I think you're right. I think there was both.
But yeah, I mean, they already have like the base of what to build off of, and I think WB Games, like I said, I haven't finished Arkham Origins, but that was an overall pretty good game. I don't think it lived up to like Arkham City, which came after, but it was an overall solid game that built on what Rocksteady had done with the first 2 games.
Yeah. Any big predictions, guys? Anything you're going to say like this is probably what we'll see on Saturday?
The trailer cuts to black, and then you hear Joker's laugh, and you're like, "Oh, it's what I wanted."
Damn, that's the guess I had.
And then you hear a second Joker laugh.
And you hear
and
a
the third
second
one.
Nice to meet you. That's so cringe thing just to think about.
Triple trouble.
I guess maybe this isn't quite answering your question. Do you want? I guess I'm thinking they'll bring, especially if they're going to connect it with Suicide Squad, which we don't know. It's just speculation. But I would imagine they bring Kevin Conroy back for Batman's voice.
Oh, man.
I mean, I love Conroy. I think he is Batman.
Yes, for sure.
But that also kind of goes against me wanting to disconnect from the Arkham games, because at least at the start, Arkham really felt like kind of a love letter to the animated series fans. And I'm still, I'll take Kevin Conroy wherever I can get him, but I would love to see maybe another voice actor maybe try that out if it fits, depending on what kind of Bruce Wayne they want to tell in this story.
Who did Batman in Origins again? I know Troy Baker did Joker, right?
Yeah, I'd have to look. I'm not sure.
I can look it up but yeah, he did a really good job.
Because
let's go back to the prediction while we're at it. I'm going to predict that Robin's going to ride a motorcycle.
Oh.
And I think at some point in the game, you'll be able to fly the bat plane.
That'd be great.
Those predictions are really out there, Reeves. You got any? I mean, those are a little bit too far. But I
What's your prediction, man? You got to play dangerously. You got to roll the dice.
The Owls will resurrect some villains we didn't even expect to see for some reason. Not literally resurrect them from the grave, but they'll be like, "Yo, we were working with Bob from accounting." That doesn't even seem too far fetched. I'm trying to go farther because that's probably likely. I'm guessing it's like, oh yeah, Raji is here. Of course he's here.
I'd love Kite Man as the main antagonist. Let's go. Let's give Kite Man his day in the sun.
Well, I mean, this already has the League of Assassins tie-in potentially, but I was looking through like there's an Easter egg in Arkham Knight where like you're going through all of like the confiscated weaponry of like the enemies. Like you can find like Harley Quinn's like guns, and they found Ra's al Ghul's knife, I think, or his sword. And if you listen to the audio log, they say, yeah, there was a lot of blood, but there was no body. So I don't know if this is connected, then yeah, it would play right into that. But if it's not, then I don't know. There's also the redacted website that they've been constantly doing. I feel like they've dropped some clues about that, and I think one of them, like, I don't know, I'm getting kind of a vibe that might be one of the main antagonists.
Sure. Anything
Cool.
can happen. That's why it's speculation. It's all
Okay,
fun.
man, let's get it.
Well, man, that's the new Batman game. We'll hear more about it this weekend. I'm excited.
Well, they don't even have to watch. They already know about it because we just told them. We told them exactly what it's going to be.
Mm.
3
true.
Jokers. We fly all pilot all the vehicles, and it's GTA 5 basically, but with Batman.
And as soon as the owls attack, Batman will be like, "Come on, Robin, let's get Owl here."
Play us off, Johnny.
And with that, that's the end of our Welcome to Batmania. And I hope you enjoyed watching that.
Because that's my favorite segment, Batmania.
Our favorite segment. But unfortunately, we got to end the segment because we have an interview with Brian Fargo coming up. So I hope you enjoy that. And then we'll be back in about 30 or so for community emails. So see you soon.
See you then.
Welcome back to the Game Informer Show. We are joined by a very, very special guest today, Brian Fargo, the founder of inXile. How's it going?
Things are good. Things are good. It's never dull in software development.
Yeah. You're surviving today?
I am. It's nice, beautiful weather, but as I was saying earlier, we're in the final 2 weeks of finalizing the game, so it's always pretty intense.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you have Wasteland 3's coming out, and I'd love to talk to you a little bit, just broad strokes of the franchise. We did this a couple months back. We did a cover story on Wasteland 3, which you were a part of, which was great. And it's such an interesting, fascinating series. So I'd love to just talk about your development across the board and then the franchise as a whole. To start, like, can you just tell people, if they aren't familiar with you, how you got into the industry?
Well, gosh, I mean, I started fooling around with computers when I was in high school, like a lot of people now, but that was actually kind of a big deal at the time, where it really was the Apple II when I was around, and taught myself how to program. I put out a game when I was like 19 years old, and then I was that company got bought when I was 20, and then I was their vice president. But then I started Interplay Productions when I was 20 years old. It was like right toward almost one, and start wanting to be. I was a big Dungeons and Dragons player. I read a tremendous amount of fiction. Movies were my big passion, and so it was sort of taking all of the things that I loved, Heavy Metal magazine, and into the new medium. And so started Interplay in 1983, scrambled around, did all sorts of different development work just to survive. And then we did The Bard's Tale. That put us on the map. That was the first game that we had a royalty stream. So that meant we could actually invest some of our own money back into the product. Before then, it was whatever the contract amount was. That was all we could do. And the first game that we invested our own money into was Wasteland. We had it because the contract amount was pretty small, and so we took a lot of our Bard's Tale money and we poured it into Wasteland. And it was a post-apocalyptic role-playing game. Came out in 88, 89, depending on the format, and it was a pretty solid success. And I think it opened a lot of people's eyes on different ways to do role-playing games in the category. That is, of a more permanent, longer-term ripple effects, morality issues. It just had different sensibilities at the time. So that was when the first Wasteland came out. So it was right around when Bard's Tale was at its peak. We came out and made a splash with Wasteland.
Yeah. And you said 88, but you guys really started development on that like several years earlier. It had a pretty long development history, which is crazy, especially back in that era when games took like 9 months to make. You guys went for a couple years. Why did it take so long?
Like 4 years.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Well, there were no tools back then to help you do anything. So everything had to be done by hand. And I mean, we were learning on the job, certainly. It wasn't like we were hyper efficient, but every square that you would step on in the world was like a mini program. So we had to do through all these checks. So in order to have this great kind of reactivity, which people liked, you could do this hand scripting of every square you could step on and what could happen. So it was very difficult, and it was pretty large. Not by today's standards, but by the amount of. I remember we ran out of disk space just to put text. That's why we had the paragraph manuals, which they also doubled as copy protection, but that really wasn't why they were made. They were made because we had the disks. Our 140K disks were just completely full, and so we couldn't do anymore. So yeah, it was quite a long dev cycle, but we also kept iterating and iterating on it, and so that helped give it a lot of the charm.
Yeah, that's crazy. I know you were also super involved in the creation of Fallout, which maybe some of our listeners aren't aware of, but you want to go over that? How did that come to be?
Yeah, so we did Wasteland, but we were a developer at the time when we made Wasteland. So Electronic Arts was the publisher, and we were getting a royalty. Same with Bard's Tale. I wanted to expand the company in terms of putting more people on the product. During that part of the heyday, it was a lot of 1- and 2-person teams by and large. So I was trying to take an approach that I wanted to put groups of people on a game. So you'd have a writer do the writing rather than us, and musicians, and all these different specialties that would come together and make larger products to boot. And so the business model, we couldn't survive really, even though we were having #1 successes with Bard's Tale and top 5, I think, with Wasteland. We weren't making that much money. So I thought, well, if we're not doing that great with #1 hits, I got to change something. So I wanted to change the model that we would take more risk, which is we would finance our own games and market our own games, but we'd let somebody else handle the physical distribution. So instead of making $3 a unit, we'd be making $20 a unit. They're quite a spread, right? But if you make a mistake, you're in trouble because it's all your money. I wanted to do a Wasteland sequel, but it didn't make any economic sense for us to do it as a developer. So I would ask EA every year, can we please do a sequel? And they would say, no, we're going to do one. And so this went on for years and years and years and years. And I wanted them to make, at least if they'd made one, I would have made a royalty because of our deal. But they weren't doing anything with it. And I kept saying, come on, use it or lose it. But I couldn't shake it free.
That sounds like a threat, Brian.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I was a little guy shaking my fist at Electronic Arts. And anyway, I gave up and I said, fine, let's really break down what made Wasteland great. What were the tenets? What are the sensibilities of that? And let's just make another game. And that's how Fallout was born. So there was a lot of similarities. Everything from the power armor, Servants of the Mushroom Cloud became another sort of a faction in ours. And so we wanted to do just enough that we wouldn't infringe copyright on Wasteland, and so that's what we set out to do. And Fallout created its own universe.
Yeah, well, and I mean, even back then, it didn't feel like post-apocalyptic was a very big genre. These days, you can't throw a rock without hitting a post-apocalyptic game. But back then, were there many games? Even when you created Wasteland 1, were there other games you guys looked at and like, this kind of works? Or was it just, Mad Max was big, like, hey, let's do that in game form?
Yeah, pretty much. I don't remember there being any post-apocalyptic games, that if there were, we didn't study them. I mean, there might, I think on pen and paper, there could have been, Car Wars or things like that, but that was like, there was no real inspiration from that. It was more driven by film, like Road Warrior, which you mentioned, or by books such as The Stand or Canticle for Leibowitz, or, I've always, the Omega Man, there's a lot of things in other mediums I think were more impactful. But the other part was that we wanted to do something where a world where you could more identify with. So fantasy is great. I love fantasy, but it's different when you say, well, you can improve your lockpick skill, or your disarming of your bomb, or you find an AK-47. Like those, you right away know the meaning of those and what's important. So we wanted to do something using those that modern knowledge, but not something in just a straight up world that was as if ours is right now, a modern world.
Yeah, the thing that felt crazy about Wasteland and Fallout as well is that people in the world would remember you. Whereas if you stole from somebody or like you killed their dog, they would remember you and they would respond accordingly. That felt really like cool and exciting at the time. Did you understand how big a deal that was when you were creating it?
Well, we always thought that people would appreciate that. I mean, I think when you're trying to build an immersive world, you want it to react in a way that you think it should react. And oftentimes when it reacts to edge cases or little things that you do, not just the big things, it feels real. And so that's why when you're mean to a dog or steal something small, you're not doing these sort of broad strokes, and people are commenting on it and remembering. You start to think, okay, every move I make is being watched in some way. I need to treat this world more seriously. So that's always been a big tenet of ours games, and that's something with Wasteland 3 we've dialed it up to a whole other level, far more intensely than any other one. I mean, that's always been our motto: is make the world recognize that it's watching you at all times.
Yeah, for sure. And so you've had such a giant, massive career in the industry that's very important. And we didn't really get into the nitty gritty, but you founded Interplay when you were 19. And then, in the early,
20.
You were 20? Okay. Big difference.
20.
You're so much more mature. I'm sure you understood everything.
Yeah, no, 19, forget it. I mean, come on.
Yeah. But then, in the early 2000s, you were you left that company. And so when you formed inXile, you obviously looked back at your previous hits and you were like, oh, I want to do something again like Wasteland. Is that how it went? And then you started pitching that to companies?
Yeah, pretty early on we did. I think that, the first franchise we did was we got the rights to the Bard's Tale name, but not the copyright, which is why we ended up doing the kind of game that we did, because we couldn't use any of the copyrighted material. But I did really want to get back to the Wasteland universe as soon as I've been chasing it for years and years and years, and I managed to get the trademark to both Bard's Tale and Wasteland because they expire after a period of time for non-use. And so I was not able to get the copyright to that, but I was for Wasteland. Long story, but I did set out, and in fact, I hired one of the creators of Fallout, Jason Anderson, was working for me at the time, and sort of said, all right, and I started pitching doing another Wasteland. And it was around that same period of time that Bethesda came out with Fallout 3. It was a massive success. And so I thought, well, this is great, right? Because I was the executive producer for Fallout. Jason worked on Fallout. I did Wasteland, the spiritual, precursor to it all. And boy, we just couldn't get anywhere, but mostly because a lot of the publishers everybody had a different viewpoint on the industry. So you might have had one publisher say, we're only going to do things that we think can do $1 billion, period, right? So other people like, well, we're going to do, title. We're only doing licensed properties. We think we want Rugrats, we want Nickelodeon, right? We want that. So everybody had a very different perspective on the industry. So it was hard to find anything that matched.
Why didn't you guys want to do Rugrats? You should have just done that.
I should have. Sort of a violent Rugrats, I think.
I would have played that Rugrats game. But yeah, nobody wanted the game, huh?
We couldn't get anywhere, and I used to joke, said, I used to be on that side of the table. I was a publisher, so I would get pitches. I said I would have loved to have people come to me with like, here's the franchise already established, going in the category that Fallout's big, and we couldn't get it going. And so that's why in 2012, when Kickstarter came around, I thought, well, here's an opportunity, because the fans the whole time were like, why don't you do another Wasteland? And I'm like, and I would show these, this to to the people we pitch, and it didn't get us anywhere. So 2012 comes along, we crowdfund it, and the fans, within 48 hours, we hit our goal and off to the races. And that was a real game changer for the company, and it allowed us to make the game, bring it back. But more importantly, we got to bring it back exactly the way we want it. Because with crowdfunding, they don't dictate editorial control or otherwise. They trust you. So we're able to do it just the way we want it.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, at that point, it had been basically 20 years since the release of the first Wasteland, which is a crazy span of time. Like, so much had changed in games at that point. How did you guys decide, like, this is what Wasteland is going to look like now? How did you settle on stuff like the strategy elements? And because the first Wasteland wasn't really a turn-based strategy game quite in the same way, right?
Yeah. It's always a fine line to walk as you bring the older franchises, and the further back they go, the trickier it is. We didn't. You don't want to come out with a sequel that looks like it came out in 1991, because that's going to be a problem. On the other hand, there's a bunch of things that the players loved about the original series you didn't want to lose. So tactical combat was a big part of it. But now you actually. Before we would just describe, you see these people at 50 feet, these people at 30 feet. You could just read about it. Now we had to display it all on screen, which tactically changes things. So I think the tactical nature and controlling a squad of Rangers is something that they wanted to see again. That was sort of paramount. We had things like the keyword system. Everything was word phrase. So we tried to walk a line between, you choose a key word, but then we'd say, here's the phrase that you're going to say. Now we've said, okay, people, they liked it, but their things have evolved enough that we went to a full conversation system. And so we make these small incremental changes to sort of bridge the gap between where has the genre gone, from a technological or design perspective, and where have the roots been, and where do we find that line? So there was a lot of conversation about things of that nature, and then again hitting the tenets of reactivity that we talked about. Our games are it's a more mature writing in our games. It's we deal with drugs and alcohol and sex, and and part of that is also because of who we are as adults, and the subjects that interest us. So I talk about, like, the shows that we like are Ozark or The Boys or Peaky Blinders. Like those are shows that we gravitate towards now. It's more mature, so our games reflect that. I think about how a sequel for Wasteland in 1991 is very different than 2021, just because of who we are as people.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, and you had wanted to make a Fallout 3 back when you were at Interplay, right? And it didn't work out, obviously. Do you think it would have been similar to kind of what you did with Wasteland 2? You would have done something different?
Wasteland 3 would have been different. I'm sorry, Fallout 3 would have been different than a Wasteland 2, because we were, for all the reasons I said, we were trying to bridge a gap between the last one and the time period, where it's very different time gap between Fallout 2 and what a Fallout 3 would have been. So I don't think I would, I don't know that Fallout 3 wouldn't have been a squad. I don't think you would have created 6 people right off the bat, for example. Tone wise, yes. I think our writing, I love what our writers do. They have a very dark, twisted sense of humor, and so I get it. I mean, it's not a funny game, but it's intense. But the moments that are light are quite good. So I think in that way we would capture a lot of the same vibe. And when we use some of the writers who worked on the original Fallout, or either original Fallout or Fallout New Vegas, depending on writers they are. So tone wise, I think we're sort of in the same area.
Well, that's great. Well, what do you think of what Bethesda's been doing with Fallout since they took it over?
Well, they've taken it in a different direction than I would have, for sure. I think I mean, they did Fallout 3 and they made it a worldwide icon. So for that was pretty fantastic to watch. And so, props to them on that. They're taking it just someplace different than I would be now, and so we're doing our thing and they're doing theirs.
Well, yeah, and you're still doing your thing. You got Wasteland 3, as you said, is almost out. Like, what's exciting about the third one here?
Yeah, gosh, I don't even know where to start. I think Wasteland, it reminds me very much of the original Fallout series. I think anybody who sort of fell in love with the original Fallouts, this will be like a great reminder of why they fell in love with those. Again, the writing's super edgy. It's very deep. It's a very large game. It's much larger than we thought. I mean, we were telling people 40 to 60 hours before. It's feeling like 80 hours plus. I mean, it's just large, super replayability, super replayable. It's that you're making all of these choices that are super meaningful, and you can, like, there's like one guy, if you have him in your party towards the latter third of the game, that just changes everything in terms of how things play out. And I know the player's going to see all of these scenes that happen with this guy in the party, and they're binary. Some are going to go away. That they're going to go, if I just replace that one guy, it just changes everything, and that kind of attention to detail that the designers did, I think, is super. There's multiple endings that are wildly different from each other. We put you in very morally difficult. I mean, there are decisions that are going to be fun watching when they stream. Really going to be scratching their head, because we like, the bad guy isn't that bad and the good guys aren't that good. Everybody, it's not that black and white. So the decisions are not easy. Again, meaningful in what you get, meaningful in how people react to you. Personality-wise, well, tactical, they did a great job with the tactics on this. They've added a lot of extra layers of tactics that I think that the people that love that aspect of it like. The music is, music isn't something that normally people care as much about. It's not like something that, not one of their checklists. They want visuals, they want deep reactivity, etc. But music's always been important to me. I tell you, Bardstell 4 music, we hired all the top Galaxy singers in the world. I thought it was a wonderful soundtrack. I love the soundtrack from this. We hired Mark Morgan, who did the original Fallout series. He did Torment, so he sets kind of the industrial vibe of it. But then I've always been drawn towards the mixture of the kind of the violence and the innocence as they come together. Fallout did that, and you think the opening, like playing the ink spots while the guy's executing the guy in the back of the head, that was a perfect example of those mixing together. And I always thought that Quentin Tarantino did a great job with that in his films, with his soundtrack. So I hired the music supervisor that did all the Tarantino films, and so she helped put together a really great soundtrack. That key combats that kick in, they sort of come in. You're in this. It's just doing. It's not like where you're. Most games, it's like sound. You're getting your soundtrack, and then you get into battle, and then you get the amped up soundtrack. Well, this one kicks into, down into the valley to pray. There's some old biblical song, or it might be the Battle Hymn of the Republic. So sort of a very interesting kind of twisted take. You might even get a kids choir during a key moment. So I think the soundtrack's great. We licensed some great 80s music, and it's just, it was no cheap feat. And we remixed the music, and it just comes over the radio. It's just like a little piece that comes and goes, but anybody who grew up in the era will really take you back to that time. So I love the soundtrack. I bet they did a great. It's all fully voiced, which we hadn't done before. It's 300 speaking parts. It's just massive. It's insane. Yeah, it was just massive. So I just think the best thing I can say about it is you could just feel the love that was poured into it. It's not. There's nothing cookie cutter about the game at all. It's just a lot of love and a lot of little touches.
Yeah. I did the cover story back a couple months ago for Game Informer, and we went very in depth on it. So anybody who's listening to this who's intrigued should go check that out. And talking to the team, the game just sounds super. systemic, where you'll do something, and if you angry a group of raiders, they might come through and like wipe out a town, and then all these people will be dead, or you maybe save somebody from a bandit, and then that opens up a whole new quest line that you wouldn't have otherwise. So it's just like the things you can play through this game multiple times and maybe see things differently. Have you had any experiences when you've been playing the game of something crazy happen that you're like, oh, I didn't expect that?
I'm trying to think of it. I'm sort of inundated with all of the moments. I certainly have been playing many times where I think, I can't believe they thought of that. That they actually paid it off. It's hard to say them without spoilers. But like I said, you get one, a small moment where there's this guy who's like, he's like the Joker. He's sort of batshit crazy, one of the sons, and he's taunting you on the radio as you're getting towards him, and and as you're killing his bodyguards on your way up, he's sort of admiring you at the same time. He's sort of praising you, but then berating his people that you're making your way up there, and he's a really pretty horrible. So you can, as usual, you can kill him, or you can arrest him, which is what you're supposed to do. Or you can say he makes an offer to join your party, and so you can have him join your party. Well, people do not react well to that at all. And so even there's a point where normally there's a group, they might even be rangers, they're quite friendly towards you. They see him in the party, they attack. So now you're in combat with your own allies because of this guy. And so he's in your party, and he's just barking at everybody the entire time. And the world is, what is he doing in your group, to the point where you even get to his father, and he says, I said arrest him. I mean, what kind of idiot would want Vic with you in the group? And he, throughout the entire game, there is reactivity to the things he's doing all the way to the end. He talks to the car, I mean, he never stops. And so I like that you can make, one decision, and we don't just pay it off like once, it gets paid off like 50 times.
Yeah, no, that sounds cool. I wanted to speak too is halfway through development of this game, you guys were purchased by Microsoft. And so I would think all the money problems you had just went out the window at that point. Can you talk about how that has changed you guys development wise? How has that affected how you guys develop games?
Yeah, you're right. So it was like halfway through, and the grand effects of what they've done have really yet to be felt. Like, this will just be sort of a piece of it. This isn't something that we started from scratch with them, but we did get extra time, but we've known we've been missing a lot of different pieces, sort of parts in the band that we've needed. We needed a visual effects engineer, that we needed another audio guy. There were so many different aspects to development that, I think we did a really good job of creating games sort of punching above our weight. We'd go spend, $3 or $4 million making a Wasteland 2, maybe 5, let's call it. And the people, like other developers, they'll spend that on their, opening title sequence practically. And we have to do the entire game for that. But so we knew what we were missing if we wanted to take the next step up. So they've allowed us to do that. So it's resulted in better localization, better testing, more visual effects than we would have had. It's really sort of an across the board thing. And most importantly, it was time. And so we were given extra time to work on the product, which is probably the biggest thing. And I was talking to the group the other day that, like, in the last 90 days, we've improved over 1,000 things. And I think that's the thing about development that people don't realize is how much happens in a short period of time, especially when you get to the point where, like, okay, we're done by and large. Now we got to hone everything in. Yeah, there's a few bugs, but it's content complete. You can make your way through the game from beginning to end. You can do everything. It's all there. Now it's like, well, that's in, but does it really feel right? or is the volume too high, or is the voice actor really not selling that line? You get into these conversations of nuance. Did we telegraph that correctly? You know, is that combat like? Does that feel like a slog? I just out there. Did I give did I just work my way through that combat, and was my reward not good enough? There's just an infinite number of conversations you're able to have in order to improve the experience, and that's the best thing that any developer.
Yeah. The other crazy thing that happened in the middle of development was this pandemic, which has gone on way longer than I think any of us wanted to. But, you know, you guys are making a game about an apocalypse, and then this crazy worldwide event happens that changes everybody's lives. Obviously, it's not as drastic as what you guys are going through, but did this wear on you guys mentally at all? How have you guys been dealing with this?
So, I mean, I've seen some wear on people for sure. I mean, I think at first it was, hey, we get to work from home. It's kind of fun, kind of a change. But I've seen, you know, there's a little bit of a, like I said, a wear and tear from like, you know, they want to go back. People, it's fun to work with your other teammates, and there's a lot of intangibles that go on in development when you're. I used to just walk down the halls and look over somebody's shoulder and go, hey, that's great, you know, or what is that? And like, oh, and then that turns into a conversation about, you know, maybe it shouldn't be a certain way. And so everybody had those sort of in the hall conversation. But mental health, I mean, we've tried very hard. We talk all the time. We play bingo with the company over Teams. We try to keep everybody so we still feel like a company as best we can. But yeah, definitely a shock to the system. And you know, people that were at home and now they have kids that are watching at the same time, but it's just the reality that we live in.
Well, yeah, Brian, it's been a pleasure to talk to you today. I know we're almost out of time. Any other final thoughts on Wasteland 3 or anything else you want to get off your chest? What's in the future for you guys?
Oh gosh, you know, it's funny. We work on these games for 3.5 years. We kill ourselves, and then people will get through it like a week and go, "What's next?"
Give us another game tomorrow. Yeah.
What's next? No, I still love the business. I can't wait to get this in people's hands, and you know, I'm hoping we just want to keep doing what we're doing. I mean, that's what when I talk to the group, like, why is it important to make it good so we can just keep doing what we're doing? There's nothing more thrilling than making a entertainment experience that people respond positively towards. And we tend to make games that are still playable in 10 years. You know, they're so deep that they're not, if you really want to get into it, you can probably rediscover content for a decade. It's that deep. So we love that. And so one of our biggest thrills these days, something that didn't exist back then, is watching people stream the game on launch day. That's like for us, that's like, you know, practicing and then our concert comes on and we get to perform live. I mean, that's our equivalent. We get to watch all the reactions and see what they're, you know, see their faces as the thing, whether it's funny or difficult or scary or, you know, whatever the emotion is. So really looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's gonna be so thrilling. Well, you don't have to wait long because Wasteland 3, it's out August 28th, I believe, correct?
Yep.
So very soon. Brian, thanks again for being on the show. It's a pleasure. Good luck finishing up the game and whatever's next. And thanks for watching the GI Show. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Game Informer Show. We are about to embark on a community email segment. This is the part of the podcast where you, the listener, the watcher even, get to write in to our email, podcast@gameinformer.com, and write questions, write stories, tell us about your dreams, whatever boring thing you want to do, and we will read it. I'm sorry, am I being too negative?
Maybe a little.
Oh yeah, sorry. This is actually our favorite part of the show. This is my favorite part of the show.
This is my favorite part of the show because it puts the listener in the driver's seat for a crash course in fun. Let's do it.
There you go. There we go. That's what I like to hear. Podcast@gameinformer.com. That's our email. Write in. Let us know what you got. Give us a piece of your mind. give us an email like this one. First email from Jay Krug in Raleigh, North Carolina. He says, "Hey GI, longtime fan and subscriber since 1995.
Whoa.
Ooh, what were you guys doing in 1995?
Subscribing to Game Informer magazine.
I didn't even know how to read yet.
Doing my best Shay impression and making dirty diapers.
Writing a paper on the bead game and its implications on Faust.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what I was doing.
Anyway, Jay writes in, he says, "Here's a potentially simple question. Are you smarter overall than anyone who existed 500 years ago? In many areas, someone like Leonardo da Vinci would destroy me intellectually, but even on a basic level, we all know much more now about medicine, astronomy, global economics, the internet, nutrition, Big Bang Theory, electronic entertainment," which that's interesting genre, I guess, etc. A genius like Da Vinci couldn't use a GPS to drive across country, fill up a gas tank, check into a hotel, or take proper medicine, or hook up a Nintendo Switch to a smart TV. I mean, if he had time, I think he could figure that one out.
At the
Is it
same time-
possible?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hold on. This guy's
I thought it was
got an
over. I thought
important
it was
question
over.
for you,
It's not
Brian.
over. I've been waiting very patiently.
Jay says, "Is it possible that the modern day average Joe is smarter than even the greatest minds from 500 years ago? Thanks for decades of memories." Interesting question. What do you guys think?
Now, this question comes down to the question of what do we call intelligence,
Mhm.
right? Because we
I
do
think it's
have
interesting how he's framing it. Yes.
we do
Go on.
have all of the world's information at our fingertips 24 hours a day now, which is certainly something they did not have before. But it depends how we're considering intellect, like the base intelligence of a person. Certainly, everybody has more access to information now. Utilization of that information, I think, is still what we would consider utilizing intellect. Like even if though I can look up how to do complex calculus and stuff like that, I probably would not. I don't know. I wouldn't be able to figure it out. Most likely, we'll see. But you know, you can look stuff up. But that's so. So yes, we are smarter, I think, as a populace, but we still fall prey to the same traps that they did back then. We're still very driven by our by our nature as human beings. You know, we do
And
we
that
do fall
nature
into the
is
same old. Well, you know, we gravitate toward things, even though we have intelligence to tell us facts. We can sometimes discount those facts based on other motivations. So
Oh, sure. Getting
Yeah, I
very
know.
political now, I see.
it's complex. It's complex. The human mind is complex. Intelligence is complex, and he didn't give us a definition, so it's actually an impossible question to answer. We have
Yeah,
more
I don't like
information.
I don't
But-
like this word intelligence. It scares me. No, I don't like the way he used the word intelligence, because I feel like Da Vinci probably is more intelligent than me. He probably is smarter.
Mhm.
If you ask like who has more general knowledge about how the world works, maybe I can beat him on like certain trivia questions because we just understand the world better now. But
There's
I don't know,
knowledge and intelligence.
if you were going to measure his intelligence with like, I don't know, a standard test, like he could probably beat me, honestly. I don't think
I
I'm
don't know,
necessarily
because
more intelligent.
You, in your in our era, you've been trained for standardized testing, which he'd have no training to do. He wouldn't know the ins and outs of guarded selection of B and C answers. And depending on
Oh.
hedging your bets and all this kind of stuff. You know what? Tell
You're
you what,
saying he wouldn't
we
fill in a
take
circle
Da
according to it,
Vinci
he'd,
to
like,
a
put a
wing
check
joint.
mark on
All
it?
right, we take him to a wing joint. We get the trivia going. We get a couple of buckets of beer, and I bet I could take him out just because of that. But it doesn't mean I'm smarter than him. It means the access.
Oh. Oh no.
It
Oh,
means the
Dan,
access.
you're ruining your point.
Okay.
You knocked your
accidentally
mic
hit the
off.
button on my mic. It means that the access to world knowledge has changed since the
Yeah.
Italian Renaissance. That's all it means. So this whole question is like, what the hell? You got to define intelligence. Is his natural IQ higher than mine? Maybe. I don't know. Would the average person living in those times have an average IQ higher or lower than today's person? I don't know.
Well, it
Is this
goes both
are we
ways.
are we evolutionary scientists here, or do we rate video games? I'm not sure.
If you went back in time, I think it cuts both ways. If you went back in time 500 years and lived with Da Vinci, I think you'd be considered an idiot because you don't know
No
how
way.
they live.
I'd be
Yeah.
so screwed.
We
I
would
think you'd be
destroy it.
pretty
Are you
screwed,
kidding?
dude.
They've written stories about this for ages. One of my favorite books, Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's Court. Great look at that. You know, you bring back knowledge from today into those time periods, and you'd be a wizard, right? You know, you'd be considered a magician. So you have to be careful that they didn't kill you. That's possible. So you have to be.
But only if you have access to stuff. Dan, what would you build if you were like in the medieval era? How would
medieval
you
era?
Dan, would you build Fortnite?
I would make. You're right. There you go. I would just make Fortnite, and that would be it. You know, Dan Games would have been founded in the Middle Ages, right? There you
go. It's a cool idea. Like, oh, I would love to. I'd be one of the first people to build a computer. But like, if you were in the medieval era, how would you even start? Like, how would you start building a computer?
Right. It depends what I get to take back. I wouldn't build a computer. I'd build weapons. How do you think we were going to get to the next era? All right.
The thing is, there are people in the medieval era who had spent lifetimes building weapons, and I think they got pretty good at it, building weapons they knew how to build. What weapon would you be able to build that's better?
Back then.
I'd invent a weapon, a gun. There you go.
Okay, but how? Like, do you know the first thing about knowing how to build a gun?
Couldn't you
somebody
just bring
I would
it
talk
with
to? I would be able to explain the schematics to a medieval engineer, and we'd figure it out.
Like that.
I don't remember what movie it was, but there was some movie where the kid traveled back in time to the medieval era, and he invented the Big Mac. I was thinking about this. I was like,
I like this. Whatever movie this is, I love it. I've never heard of this, but I'm into it.
I do remember that scene though.
If you remember what movie that is, right in, I'm curious what it was. But there's stuff like that where it's like, okay, could I like
invented the wait? He went back in time
to get a really good cake or something.
Was this movie sponsored by McDonald's?
It was called Big Mac and Me. That's what it was.
Was it a kid in King Arthur's court? Was that what it was?
That might have been it. You win the prize, Brian. Thanks for writing in.
No, again, you can also offer some other insight like sanitation and medicine and stuff like that. You have knowledge that they didn't have back then. They didn't even know you're supposed to wash your hands.
That's built on centuries of stuff. All I know is like when I have a cut, I put Neosporin and a Band-Aid.
They didn't know that.
I don't know how to make Neosporin.
They would put like a toad on a wound and hope to. You gotta understand. You do know more about general life sciences that would be applicable in a lot of situations. There, I'm serious.
Dan, I think we'd be bumbling buffoons if we went back in time 500 years.
Well, we'd be killed instantly because we wouldn't speak the same language of there's so many different angles to take here, right? But I think we'd fare better than you think. We'd understand you could cook food, you know, sanitization of all kind of urine, you know. They were disgusting back then.
Wait, what
sanitization of urine?
They were just crapping on each other, all kinds of stuff back then, man. It was bad.
The one thing I know about the medieval era is all they did all day was crap on each other.
It's true. Whatever they got to chance.
Podcast.
That's it's very similar.
It's Shay's life.
Oh my god! No. All right, intelligence. What is it? Tell us in the comments.
Yeah, if anybody has another thought on this, I would love to know. Maybe there's a few things we could beat Da Vinci in, but I think he's smarter than me personally.
I do too, but it depends on what scale.
Could you beat Leonardo da Vinci in hand-to-hand combat?
That's the one thing I could beat him at.
Really? You think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I bet he would wreck you. He'd like.
I bet he's a scrappy guy.
Yeah, I bet so.
You had to live back then. You totally had to have some fighting skills.
But you could argue that Reyes would kick his butt just on the basis that he's got way better nutrition than Leonardo had back then going for him.
That's right. All those Big Macs.
You know, a Big Mac is a solid macronutrient at the end of the day. You just can't have too much of it.
Has McDonald's ever done like a Big Mac and cheese? Like a macaroni and cheese style thing with like Big Mac ingredients? That's
no, because the Big Mac is already unhealthy enough. They add mac and cheese to that, they'd just be putting people out on their backs on the way out of this. Are you kidding me?
Nah, man. Somebody should do that. I think that would
let's do it. Let's do it. We'll take it back to the medieval ages. We'll be regarded as the grand, you know, poobah of all medieval ages for that. The best invention ever. There'll be world peace.
I mean, Alex, you should probably censor that idea so that way we don't have anybody stealing this and just taking our fortunes.
5 minutes of like
when we invent time travel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, interesting thinking piece.
That was a hell of a question.
Zach from Tulsa, Oklahoma. He writes in. He says, that clumsy local wizard just can't get it right. Zach wrote in a few weeks ago with the potions game. You guys remember that? Were you on for that week?
Yeah, I do.
Because he made some more potions with weird reactions.
He's at it again.
He's at it again. All right. So you guys have to tell me whether or not you want to drink this potion.
Okay.
But you have to take all the effects. And then Dan drank all the potions already, so he gets
Last
all.
time. Last time. I didn't do it this time.
He learned his lesson this time.
I want to participate this time. I didn't say anything.
So you're not going to drink all these potions?
No, I'm going to decide it on a potion-to-potion basis like a wise medieval wizard.
Sounds like something Da Vinci wouldn't think to do.
All right. Hey, you've grown as a human being, dude.
Yo,
Congrats.
Da Vinci was really smart. Like, he put models for tanks and submarines and crap, all right? He knew what he knew was up.
Yeah, but you're definitely smarter than he is. All right, so first potion. First potion is you now look like you are wearing whatever is appropriate for the moment, no matter where or when you are. But
Okay.
you will always be wearing flip-flops with it.
No.
Yes.
No.
way.
Yes.
No.
What's the other one? Or is that just the only one?
That's this
No,
potion.
that's the thing. That's the whole potion.
Yes, definitely. Love flip-flops. I would always be in a warm place so it wouldn't look weird. Done deal. Next.
Yeah, but you gotta,
But here's the
Alex, I don't think you've thought this through. You'd always be wearing flip-flops.
Yeah.
You
like,
never have to,
a
like,
party to
shove
go
it
to.
Always. You understand that? In the shower, in some other situations, you'd always be wearing flip-flops.
I'd have
You
good traction
read
in the
me?
shower.
All right.
I think the
Enjoy.
bigger thing for me is like living in Minnesota, like where I have to go outside from time to time and be in snow. Like I think that's the deal breaker for me.
That's why
I
I'd
just
move
can't.
and get out of here. That'd be my excuse.
Yeah, which would be great to move. I like Minnesota, but I don't like the winter.
Yeah.
But there's no way. Plus whenever I wear flip flops, I feel like I trip more somehow. Like I'm just trip prone in sandals and stubbing my toe constantly. Plus, if you drop something on your foot, like
Yeah, you're
you're
done.
just
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
seems
This
like the
makes
worst
me
thing.
just want to hold your face, Reeves, and pour the potion down your throat.
Oh,
because
no.
I want to see you tripping all over yourself and stubbing your toe constantly.
Well,
Sounds
come
like
live
just
with me then.
A very comedic situation around the office once we're back in the office.
I told this is a rabbit's foot situation because I told my girlfriend that I want to live in a place for 1 year where I could just wear flip-flops and no shoes. And now the pandemic has given me that, and it's not as fun anymore. So
It's
I
not
guess-
as
Wait,
fun.
isn't that a monkey paw, not a rabbit's foot, right?
what did I say? Rabbit's foot? Yeah, monkey paw.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
That is a
Yeah.
monkey paw. The rabbits would be good.
Yeah,
That's
it would be a
luck.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be. I would need that good luck as I'm stumbling around California with my flip-flops.
All right. You guys ready for potion number 2?
Potion number 2, baby.
Potion number 2. Your favorite gaming snack and drink are always within reach, and they are bottomless.
Ooh.
But all games take 15 minutes to boot up, and load screens are a minimum of 3 minutes.
No way.
No.
I don't think it's worth it. I don't even know if I want the first half of that by itself, because like if all my favorite snacks were within reach and bottomless, I would just gain like 100 pounds.
It wouldn't be.
See, the
do
better
any
thing would be
space.
like your favorite gaming snacks are always within reach and have no adverse effects.
That would have been.
That'd be
better.
great.
That
That
would be
would make
tempting,
it more
actually.
tempting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but
Uh,
man, loading screens, even with just like the 3-minute loads, like
It's too
that's
much.
rough.
Excellent.
Yeah, I don't think I could do that. Potion number 3. Was anybody gonna take that potion, by the way?
No.
I don't think so. I think the cost
What is
just
this,
aren't
like
worth it.
the PS2 generation? Like we're going towards SSDs, baby. That's what we need. We need no
The future. And where we're headed, we don't need load screens. That's what I say.
Exactly.
Potion number 3. All games are now free for you, but the cable guy has to come and reset your router randomly once a week between 3 a.m. and 7 a.m.
Oh man.
Between 3 and 7 a.m.?
That's probably the
Nah.
most tempting that I've had of these potions because all
Yeah.
games being free, that saves a lot of money, man. Like
Now, hold on. Do I get free DLC and microtransactions with this as well?
Oh,
I think microtransactions
you,
no,
Dan?
DLC, yes.
No microtransactions.
Because microtransactions you could just like
I'm aware.
spam
That's why I'm
into
asking.
infinity. But like
That's why
DLC
I'm
and
asking.
expansions are like finite, you know?
That makes sense to me.
All right. Well, then no. If I don't get the microtransactions, forget about it.
But you do
I
it for
ain't-
microtransactions.
I ain't waking up at 4 a.m. Forget about it.
Forget about
Once
it.
a week though. That's a minor sacrifice for all the money I would save getting
Yeah.
all games for free. But
And-
our consoles included there.
And I think I would befriend the guy so I could just, make sure I get to a trusting point with him. Give him a key. He knows what he's
Give him a
doing.
key?
Give him a key.
But he knows you have all the free games now because he's part of the deal,
Ooh.
so he would steal your system.
That's true. I
I
would have
mean-
to gauge if he's trustworthy first.
You guys have seen Cable Guy, right? You don't want to mess with this.
You know what? I'm in. Give me a shot of that potion.
As long as it's not
I
Jim
think I'm
Carrey
tempted.
walking in, I think I would take the potion.
I'm going to
Hang
do
out with
this.
Jim
I think
Carrey.
I like this. Hey, Zach, why don't you go ahead and send over these potions?
Yeah. I'll DM
right.
you my mailing address.
One final potion.
Oh,
You can
going.
pause time for 2 hours a day, but the first hour must be spent studying a mundane subject that has a test that will determine how much of your additional hour you gain. Anything below passing means you get no time, and the testing time doesn't eat into the free time.
I want to
also,
go
what do I get to do for freeze time? What does that entail? Do I actually get to stop time like the Matrix?
I was gonna say, and then
well, so that's what I was thinking of. Is like I've often fascinated or daydreamed about wanting to be able to stop time, but that's always like with the ability to play games or something. So I need to unfreeze other things to do what I want to do.
Right.
What would I do if I was just in a frozen world?
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Do I get to freeze the entire world for that hour? And do whatever the hell I want? If so, I take the deal.
Because here's my other
Even if that first of 2 hours you have to study a mundane subject and then take a test.
Hour, I can do anything while time is still at man. Think about what
you pass a test though on that subject. So if you fail, it was all for nothing.
So what? It's an hour.
Okay.
In order to get a world exploiting bug.
Here's a question though. When you stop time, do you age though? Because time is stopped for everyone else, but not you. So does your body continue to age? So like, would you be like 80 when all your friends and family are like 50? You know,
it's only 2 hours a day. Dude.
That's true.
So I don't know how much. I don't know how much that would add up.
Yeah, that's true.
It would add up over time, but yeah, it's not gonna.
Hold on, now you got me curious. So
yeah,
let's do some quick math.
There we go.
I was going to do the calculations as well, but then I realized that I don't care.
I think Reeves is a much smarter math person than I.
So it'd be 3,652 hours a year.
Ooh.
Right? Because you're doing 2 hours.
Sure. Yep.
But then how many days is that? It's divided by 24. Am I doing that right?
Yes.
I guess.
That can't be right.
Why? What did it come out to? Or is it 3?
Well, it's like 152, right?
So
these are the hours.
Yeah, so that would be right. So 152 days out of the year.
So it'd be an extra 150 days.
Okay, so almost an extra half year a year.
Excessive, but
that seems a lot. That seems very excessive, actually.
Anyone listening to this,
you did the math very wrong.
Yeah.
There's no way 2 hours a day equals half a year.
If you're still with us, I'm impressed, and you're screaming like, no, it's not correct.
Because 2 hours a day would be like a 12th of the day, right?
Yes.
So you would age 1/12 faster.
That is the better way to do this, I think.
So I think it'd be like gaining an extra month.
So in conclusion, we're not smarter than Da Vinci.
Anyway,
I don't know.
In conclusion,
I don't know if
anybody want this? I think I would do it if I could break the rules.
I would not. No, I want time to go as fast as possible.
Oh no,
this year anyway.
So would you speed up time if you could?
This year, if everything else progressed like faster, like we'd get a freaking treatment or vaccine for this thing faster, yeah, I would speed up time.
And then before you know it, you realize that your son has become just like you.
And the cat's in the cradle in the sea.
That's right. That's what that song's about.
Man,
we figured out how to break time.
We are just on fire.
We're off the rails. I do love that.
Hey, you guys want another question?
Yeah, let's get it.
All right, Alex from Spokane, Washington writes in. He says, "Hey, GI crew, soon I'm selling my house and I'll have some extra money left over after the sale. So my wife said that I could have $1,000 to spend on a Switch, games, and accessories.
Wow.
So I'm asking for your help. What is essential for a new Switch user? I plan on getting Pokemon Shield, but not the DLC, he says, just to be clear. I don't know what he's got against the DLC, but after that, I don't know what I'm going to get. So for context, I've never played a Zelda game, and I've only played some 3D Mario games. He says he loves Mario Kart and Smash Brothers, but he hasn't played those games in a while.
So yeah, also, those are the first two: Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Smash Ultimate.
Well, is the
agree 100%. I think we'll get into that in a sec. The one other point that might be useful is he has two little girls, one who's like 3.5 and one who's 1. So might be fun to get some kids games in there too. So what do you guys recommend?
Well, I
think the $1,000 already he has to buy the Switch, right?
Yep.
So and he's going to buy
700.
So let's say we have like $700 left.
Yeah. I mean, Smash Ultimate and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe are slam dunks, I think. He said he's never played a Zelda game Breath of the Wild is a good jumping on point, but he didn't say whether or not he has interest in playing a Zelda game. I mean, Breath of the Wild is the #1 essential Switch game for me, but like if somebody doesn't have any interest in that style of game, then I won't recommend that. But if he's played Mario games, 3D Mario games in particular, then Odyssey I think might be my favorite 3D Mario game. So I definitely recommend that. He's already getting Pokemon,
Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing
Make that
for
island.
sure.
Make that island with your girls.
Luigi's Mansion 3.
Yes.
Dark Horse, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
I would say Splatoon 2, but it seems like they've really slowed down on like the updates. I know they do like a Splatfest every once in a while, but it's a fun game. But I feel like its time may have passed at this point in terms of like the community.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to factor in $20 for the Switch Online if you want to play with anybody. And that'll give you the collection of SNES and NES games.
And Tetris 99, which is one of my
99's
favorites.
free.
Yeah, it's very, very good.
Get a
Breath
Pro
of Fire.
Controller.
Breath of Fire, baby.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Pro Controller.
There you go. Yeah, Pro Controller would be good. There's some really good I'm blanking on the name, but there's a really
Ori.
good like a peripheral that lets you mount your Switch to a Pro Controller. I'm trying to remember what the company is. I'll take a look, but that one would be clutch.
Satisfy, is that what you're thinking of? There's a
Yes.
company called Satisfy
I
that
think so.
they actually have one of those.
Because they switched their name from their original, I think.
If he has young children, an idea might be to get an extra dock, so that way you can play in whatever room. Like, so you have like 2 TVs you can just drop your Switch into, and it's basically like having the same. Or it is having the same system there.
Yeah, for sure. The 1-year-old's probably not going to play a ton of games yet, but yeah, I think getting Mario Kart, I think you're on the right path there, but you want extra controllers. And then I think for games, 100% back Brian up, and you should get Zelda and Mario.
Yeah.
He said he likes Smash Brothers, so Smash Ultimate I think is amazing.
Smash is good.
And that's DLC that you can definitely recommend as well. Like if he's factoring DLC into the equation, Smash Ultimate, those two. The second fighter pass is just starting, but the first fighter pass is really solid.
Yeah. I Switch is big on indies. As a dad, I'm sure he doesn't have a ton of time, so there's some really good indies out there. Ape Escape, or Ape Out, me. Ape Out. Is fantastic. I really like the Guacamelee games, and I can't recommend Celeste enough. And especially I feel like it's a really good teaching game too, to kind of teach about how we have anxiety and we run from our self-doubt and stuff like that. So that could be a good teaching game for his girls too.
Now you have me Googling Switch games, and let's
get all of them. Just get all the games.
I'm just going to run down a list of things. Super Mario Maker 2, if you like the old school Mario games, that's awesome. Stardew Valley. I mean, there's like the staples like Minecraft and Skyrim that are on every system basically. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is awesome.
Yeah.
Oh man.
All right, Alex,
that's free. Hollow Knight.
Here's what I'm going to recommend, Alex, because $1,000 will get you a lot of stuff, and I feel like you already have a pretty good idea of what you want and what the basics are. And I think you should buy like a couple $100 worth of gift cards for Switch, just a bank, so that down the road in a year or two, you can go buy a game for your Switch that hasn't come out yet.
That's the sensible answer. When if we're actually answering a person, which we are, but if we want to have fun on a podcast, then we're trying to fill $700 worth of a shopping spree, then that's what I was doing.
You know what I think's being fun is being smart, and that's my recommendation.
Actually, you know what is fun?
Set yourself up
building
for
a shopping cart with $700 worth of Switch games. That's what's fun, and then watch Christmas morning unfold before your eyes. Also, Sonic Mania.
Great. So yeah, just buy all those games, Alex. There's a lot of good stuff there. Great. Final question, guys. You guys ready for the final question?
I can't wait.
It actually, he wants us to rank some characters, which means it's time for Game Informer's meaningless character rankings.
So many characters, find out where they go on Game Informer's arbitrary ranking show. It's science.
Hey!
Oh God, I'm so excited I can barely contain it. Oh.
Thanks to Reed Conley for that fun little jingle he wrote in. Reed, well done.
It was so good.
Great musician. Love it. Musician. I don't know.
Dark
New
Magician.
Yeah.
Been a long podcast already. So Hasteel123 writes in. I don't know. I don't have a real name. That's what he's saying. He has some characters he wants us to rank, and he says, I can prove Alex wrong and lift Funky Kong off of the bottom of the list.
Oh, okay. Let's see this.
Alex, do you remember this?
I do. I made the
Last week you
bold
said-
proclamation that he will remain at the bottom of that list for eternity. Sorry, Shay.
So Hasteel, he wrote in, he says, this is his theme for this list. He says, failed 90s character mascots.
Oh no, I think I might know one of them. There's one
You
that
might.
definitely deserves
Do you
on the
wanna-
bottom. If it's coming on, then it definitely is going to lose to Funky Kong.
Do you want to guess what it is, Shay?
I'm gonna say either Bubsy or Cool Spot.
Noid. Yo, Noid.
Which one are you guessing? though?
Noid. What was
I mean,
that?
All right, let's just get into it. The list. Number 1, Bubsy the Bobcat.
Yes. Put him on the bottom.
Definitely not. He's awesome.
He is awful.
Hold on, let's hear him. Oh wait, are we starting with Bubs?
Yeah, man.
Are we going one by
Bubsy.
one or okay?
We'll do one at a time.
I think Bubsy fits in right below Luigi.
Dan, I've heard you talk about this before, and I still think you're trolling us, but like,
I'm not.
what makes Bubsy cool?
You know, he gets a lot of crap today because not all of his games are good. I readily admit that. When he was introduced, he was just a lovable and spunky character with lots of tood, like many characters in the 90s. And, he fit into that environment. I swear, if you played that game when it came out, you would have liked him like I do. As you grab those precious balls of yarn and platform to new heights, okay? It was fun. He's a fun character. He didn't stand the test of time. Historically, that kind of character, like many of his friends from that time era, like Gex the Gecko and all those other rude dudes, he didn't stand the test of time. Sure. But his persona then fit the era, and again, everybody talks about what a crap pile he is today. If you were there when he came out and was introduced, he was a cool cat.
Well, I'm
Bottom of the
sure
list.
Hitler
Bottom of
was
the
a cute
list.
baby, but
Not a baby. He was a
we got to
good
factor
character.
in the whole of a person's persona, right? So
Yeah, so eventually the games
Bubsy-
fill up, but a lot of these people have made appearances in crappy games too.
well, it's not it. What makes him cool? Like he's a bobcat who's like snarky, but like he's not
Yeah.
funny.
He's cracking jokes. The games were pretty solid. Those games, the initial games, were very solid. You might not think they were the
But
best.
we're not
games,
ranking
but
the
they were-
games, Dan. We're ranking the
Okay, yeah.
character.
He's awesome. He's
all right.
He makes joke. He's quipping wise all the time while he's kicking ass.
Whipping Wise.
Yeah.
My favorite Jackbox party game.
All right, the
Yeah,
court will take that into account.
I'm sure the
Anybody
court
else have
won't.
any thoughts on Bubsy?
This is some BS right here. But hey, I made the case. I know that the true gamers out there will understand. There's no way he deserves to be at the bottom.
Bottom.
I think because Funky Kong is so derivative of the design of normal Donkey Kong, I think he has to stay at the bottom, where Bubsy tried to live on his own, tried to be his own character, and got his own game series, might I add. So I think he deserves a
Alex,
spot above Funky because of that.
Have you heard Funky Kong's theme song?
I have. I thought about it quite a bit after we talked about it.
There you go. That's
I get
all
it.
you
You guys-
need.
You guys just
He's a-
want somebody to put below Funky. You'll find it. It's not Bubsy. If you want this list to be accurate, it's not Bubsy.
Bubsy is
Yeah,
unmitigated garbage.
I did the science, guys. It just doesn't check out. Funky stays on the bottom still.
I'm still
I-
mad about Orin being so low.
That's for another
Well,
podcast.
we're gonna have to re-rank Orin if people write in and say they want us to re-rank Orin. Just for a recap, we have a master list. Every video game character ever is going to be on this list eventually. Right now, it's 17 characters long. Near the bottom, which is where I think Bubsy is going to be, we have like Fox McCloud, Toad Jackson from Super Mario Brothers, and Funky Kong from the Donkey Kong series. I'm feeling like Bubsy, I could put him above Funky Kong, but I don't think he goes above Toad.
I agree.
He goes above Toad.
No.
He goes above like half this list, but I know I can't fight you guys.
He definitely
so-
doesn't go above Toad. I will almost give in and let you put him above Funky.
There's a lot of Bubsy bias in this group.
I
I mean,
reviewed
I
his
think-
last game, and it is
Okay, I'm not talking about we've talked about this before. You're reviewing the character and you're not reviewing
exactly.
The whole
The character was like
But you're not
nailed on a
reviewing the
chalkboard. The
You're not-
character without, even if the game was a on par with Super Mario World, the character was nails on a chalkboard.
Wow.
Awful quips, terrible.
The new
one-liners.
game, maybe not. No one's praising his new game.
Hey, that's part of the body of work.
Some of these characters have been in really, like I already mentioned earlier, before that this got brought up. Many of these characters have been in garbage games as well.
Name one.
Good save.
I'm sure Toad's been in some really terrible games.
Nope.
Yeah, you got a point.
I'm sure he has.
All right, so
Yeah, that's why he's at the bottom of the list.
I think Bubsy comes in at number 17.
Above Funky.
It's a very good showing, Dan, and I'm sure he'll just continue to go lower as we add characters to this list. Number 2 on Haysteel's list, which if he's going for bottom shooters, I don't think this is fair. Earthworm Jim.
Ooh.
All the way at the bottom.
Better than Bubsy. Definitely better
all
than
the
Bubsy.
way at the bottom.
Worse than Funky?
No.
I put Earthworm Jim above Fox, but below Mega Man.
I put him above Funky, and that's it.
Above Fox? Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the thing. Here we got to talk about Earthworm Jim a little bit because he's a cool looking character, right? He's got this he's basically a worm that jumped into a giant robot body, and he's
like an astronaut suit,
just
right?
a normal worm, right? With but it's a super muscular astronaut, which let's face it, most
makes him cooler automatically.
But he has a whip attack where he grabs his own worm body and whips anything. So he's basically becoming his own weapon. Like, that's such a cool thing. He's silly, absurd. He looks cool, doesn't have a ton of personality, but with a body like that, do you need one?
Don't think so.
I agree.
Compelling. So
above Fox, below Mega Man.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, though, he can't really go above Fox McCloud, personally.
Okay.
But
fine.
That's my personal take. What do you guys think?
I feel like
anybody else have a fondness for Earthworm Jim?
Above Funky Kong, but below everyone else.
I think that's a good spot for him. I don't think he goes above Fox. Fox is too much like swag to be
fine. Above Toad,
taken
below
over.
Fox.
What do you guys think about putting him above Toad from Super Smash Brothers?
I feel like Toad's more iconic though. Still, there was hieroglyphics.
This gets back into the very first conversation.
Yeah, but Toad he has hieroglyphics of him in Paper Mario. You know what I mean? He's in every Mario game. He's sometimes my choice in Mario Kart when my other 4 choices have been taken. You know, like I don't know if I'm choosing Earthworm Jim.
But doesn't Princess Peach use Toad as a shield in Super Smash Brothers? Isn't that a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, Toad isn't even a character in Super Smash Brothers.
She just doesn't even care about him.
Yeah.
So why should we?
I'm still mad that Toad isn't playable in Smash Brothers.
Him and Waluigi are just sitting on the sidelines, wondering one day.
Waluigi belongs on the sidelines.
All right. So where do you guys think?
Fine, put him above Toad. Jim? Above Toad.
He's above Toad?
Yeah.
Dan, Alex?
I'd say below Toad.
I already said. I haven't changed my my take here. Right above Funky Kong, above no one else. That's my take.
Well, we gotta use some science. So is he below Toad then?
I say below Toad.
Yeah.
Well, we have a split room.
All right, put him below Toad.
Oh, well, way to fold, but all right.
Yeah.
Well,
the podcast is long enough already.
All right, there he is. Earthworm Jim coming in at the new 17, right above Bubsy.
New 17 is my favorite DC Comics run.
As predicted, Bubsy is now number 18. All right. Final character on Hasteel's list. Gex the Gecko.
Oh.
And
worse than Bubsy. Worse than Bubsy.
I mentioned him earlier. Yeah, he's down near the bottom, but not below Funky Kong.
Okay.
Put him right above Funky Kong.
What's Gex's deal though, guys? Like
he tries to be like an Austin Powers kind of character.
Well, I think that's just because Austin Powers had come out, and so he was doing a lot of Austin Powers quotes, right?
He was doing a lot of Austin Powers quotes.
Oh, behave.
So,
he really
yeah, baby. Yeah.
I think honestly, like I remember liking those Gex games, but I think the fact that he was just parodying popular quotes kind of like does knock him down in my book. It was like a novel thing when those games came out of like, hey, look, we can cram a bunch of audio into our game. It's a CD-ROM, so we can have actual audio of people talking. And so that was a novelty, and that made it interesting enough. And so they just had to write hundreds of lines of dialogue, and basically they were just stealing from other media at that point.
Yeah.
So he didn't really have a personality of his own. He was just a cipher.
He was like the Geico Gecko if he just got like the kind of the Clockwork Orange treatment of having his eyelids held open and watching popular movies.
You guys have a lot of what I would call negative nostalgia. You're supposed to like these cool cats that we played with when we were kids, you know? They were fun. They were, you know, we can bag on them all day now for not having the sensibilities of today. But when you were sitting there, you know, playing on your Nintendo Entertainment System, these guys were awesome. You were like, whoa, I want to get Gex. He's super cool. And now we just bag on him. It's like you're throwing it's Santa Claus in the garbage. That's what it's like. We have the mythology that we created when we were kids that you're just throwing into the dumpsters all too easily.
Dan, shut the hell up. Reap at the bottom.
Well, here's my argument against that, Dan. Could Gex use himself as a whip?
Oh,
you know,
checkmate.
Just put him.
No, that means he's not as good as Earthworm Jim.
With the rest of the revered icons that we're so willing to forget.
Like Funky Kong. Why is he?
We deny we ever knew them. Now that's what we're doing. Like, oh, did you know Gex? No, I didn't know him. You know, he's. You know, you played Gex back in the day, and you liked it. All right.
I did not like it.
So easy to bag on him now. So easy.
So, Dan, who's better than Bubsy or Gex?
Poor Bubsy is the most missile. You know.
I will put Bubsy above Gex. I will 100% say Bubsy goes over Gex.
Let's do it. I agree with that. Obviously.
Okay, so Gex is below Bubsy. Seems like we have no fondness for him. But the question is he below Funky Kong?
Oh,
now Alex is just being stubborn to keep Funky at the bottom.
I was challenged.
I guarantee someone will go below Funky.
I would honestly put Gex below Bubsy. Or sorry, Gex below Funky Kong. You guys want to put him as the worst character on this list?
I think that you just want. I think you've got an agenda. I think you just want to get somebody below Funky Kong to get somebody below Funky Kong, not because he actually deserves to go below Funky Kong.
Were you just accusing Alex of the opposite? I don't understand.
Oh, I think
that was me. That was me accusing Alex.
I wasn't accusing Alex of anything. I was commenting on how easily we're killing our heroes here today. And
I don't like. This is just an opportunity to talk about characters and why we like them, guys. So
this is such a positive time.
We've taken the Easter Bunny, Santa Claus, and these other modern marvels of mythology and just thrown them right under the bus.
In no world is Bubsy Santa Claus.
These are icons of an era, and it's so easy to trample on them now as if they were nothing, but they were special. Okay, once upon a time.
In our defense, the letter was written with the explicit purpose of finding a bottom dweller.
So let me pose the question like this. You're on a railroad track. You're on a train. You see up ahead the train tracks split. On one side, Funky Kong is tied to the tracks. On the other side, Gex the Gecko is tied. You have to make a call. Do you pull the switch and run over Funky Kong, or...
I stay at the bottom.
Below Funky.
Below Funky. I'm saying kill Gex.
Dan?
I don't think we need... Again, I think you guys are just trying to get somebody below Funky to do it. I think he's not the greatest character, okay? But, yeah, okay, I still think above Funky. Down very low, but above Funky. There will be somebody to usurp Funky Kong's
There is another.
Throne. It will happen. I promise you this.
All right, I kind of agree. We've used science, guys. Once again, Gex the Gecko's coming in at number 19, right above Funky Kong, right below Bubsy. That's our list. It's 20 characters long now.
We're getting there.
So if you have a character you would like us to rank, write in podcast@gameinformer.com. We've got a lot of emails, more than we'll be able to catch up on for a while, but we might do a special segment in the coming weeks, maybe a month, to just try to crank through a bunch of characters. What do you guys think?
That'd be a lot of fun,
right? 5 more characters to go, and we've done all the characters in gaming, so we're getting real close to the end of this list.
Super special episode.
Maybe I'll try to get a special crew together who isn't feeling salty that day. How about that?
Salty.
Well,
Oh boy.
If they gave us good options, I mean,
Ben,
like
get us out of here. Get us out of here.
Like I said, the letter was written with the explicit purpose, the stated purpose of finding something worse than Funky Kong. So a normal letter gave us something like Kratos and Commander Shepard, not Gex. I don't even know the other ones. Just move on.
Yep. All right. We've reached the final part of our show,
I've run
the
out of
section
gas.
we like to call Get Wrecked.
Get wrecked,
That's
son.
where we recommend stuff for you to go check out on GameInformer.com and in the magazine. What do you guys have to recommend?
Yo, what's up? What's up, Game Informer listeners? Get wrecked and then get jacked when you go read my awesome review of Hyperscape live on the site right now. Boom.
What'd you give it, Dan?
7.25.
Ooh, feel myself getting.
Want to
jacked
find
already.
out why? Only at GameInformer.com. Get wrecked.
7.25 is the most compelling score to read about.
Brian, what about you?
You know what? I want to give a shout out to Joe Juba for an article he put together earlier this month called How to Get the Most Out of Photo Mode. You know, photo mode is a thing that I think a lot of us really appreciate when it's in like a really good looking game. And Joe has a bunch of tips here of how to get amazing shots in your games. So I say go check out How to Get the Most Out of Photo Mode.
That's very nice. I was also going to recommend something that Joe wrote earlier this
Oh.
month. It's 10 franchises that should be resurrected for next gen. It basically reads like a list of my favorite franchises, sadly. He's got games like Legacy of Kain, Dead Space, Portal, Splinter Cell, just a bunch of great franchises that we know and love and would love to love again if they ever made a new game. So go check it out. It's 10 franchises that should be resurrected for next gen. Alex, you got anything to recommend?
Bro, I'm trying to get wrecked right now. I and the wonderful Kim Wallace sat down with the GOAT herself, Jennifer Hale, and we had a really awesome conversation about her role and impact on FemShep, all of her awesome roles from Ash to Sarah Palmer to literally her stuff in the Powerpuff Girls. Like I've heard her voice since I was a kid, which is bananas. So it's really cool. And then she gives some really good life advice, in it too, and advice to people who are looking to get into this industry in the era of Critical Role and voice actors kind of taking back the power themselves and doing their own thing. So it's really cool. Go check that out. It's on the site. It's on our YouTube page. She is an awesome, awesome person.
Great. Well, that's it for our show. Thanks for watching or listening to the Game Informer Show. We really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe to the magazine. And we'll be back next week with another show. Until then, game on, everybody.